Well, hello and welcome to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Hey, I'm Mark.
Joining us today. Oh, well, you know what? Thank you, Mark,
For what?
for joining
Oh, jeez.
us
Okay.
today.
Okay, you're
But,
welcome.
You know, also joining us today is Ian,
Hello.
our resident Gribbly man.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, but also Dylan from Big D's War Band.
G'day, guys!
How you
Oh,
doing?
wow.
It's
Dylan?
another.
Very
Hi,
timid.
guys. Nice to meet you, fans. It's another episode of Let's Talk Lorehammer. I'm here with my guests.
No.
We've got Eric. Eric's over there. Say hi, Eric.
You know what? We can
got,
just mute it in post.
Another
It's
podcast.
fine.
We've got another. You may have heard his name before in the
I-
Lorehammer ethos. It's Mark here. Say hi, Mark. So I'm down here in the trenches. This is
Trevor.
This is LTL correspondence. I'm out here live just to get boots on the ground, if you will. We're gonna find out some information about these boys, and you know, we're not gonna learn about Warhammer. We're gonna learn about the people behind Warhammer, and that is the
All I
Warhammer.
am though is Lorehammer. There's not much to it beyond that.
You're basically just a cardboard cutout of
Oh, yeah.
Warhammer,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's understandable. Don't be sad, Eric. It's all right. So tell me your thoughts and feelings.
You want to know my thoughts and feelings?
Well, you know I do. The people want to know, in fact.
Well, my first feeling is anger, rage, betrayal, regret.
Each of these words.
These are the 5 stages of denial at myself for allowing Dylan on this podcast.
yes.
And then eventually it ends with acceptance.
Uh-huh.
Where
Because
I
at least I'm
accept.
here.
Yeah. You know, you showed up, Dylan.
You,
so I accept.
You lost a Patreon member for each of those adjectives. All right, you disrespect my community, you disrespect your own community. I'm here as a representative, and you will join the warband.
I will. I am in the
Yeah,
warband
see?
for sure.
The takeover is here. It starts here. There's video evidence. We can begin the assimilation.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to pick up from there, so let's just pick up.
That's all right.
And the piece I need to pick up
Is
are
point 2
yeah, point
on our
2.
notes.
So that would be Patreon, our Redbubble, our Facebook, Instagram, Discord, YouTube. You know, I don't think we talk enough about all the ways you can get in touch with us, which is a lot. So again, I'll say it. We have Patreon if you want to support the show. If you're looking for some merch with Redbubble or with our icon on it, our symbol,
Sure.
check out Redbubble.
Sure.
You can buy a duvet cover.
You can buy a duvet cover.
I've been
with
trying to
the
get my wife to buy
Lorehammer.
me that, and she just,
Put like
just keeps handing me divorce
rose
papers.
petals
It's like,
on
oh.
it.
You really show
Lead the
your
woman
partner,
down the hallway.
Show your partner
to
that
the
you care.
Lorehammer duvet cover.
Lorehammer, that's right.
Can
This
magic
Valentine's
happen.
Day.
Women not included, unfortunately. You need to be an extra patron for that.
We also have a Facebook if you want to get in contact with us or be a part of that community. We also have Instagram where we do our daily lore posts and we just highlight different aspects of the universe for you.
There's all types of things. People know everything. People
Yeah.
know what Instagram is. I think
I hope so.
I think we're good.
There's a
to move-
subset of people that don't understand. Maybe you should elaborate.
No, fuck those
Are you
people.
sure?
Let's move to point 3.
All right. Well, point 3, regrettably, actually,
I
brings
know.
us right back.
Goddamn, right back to Dylan.
G'day, guys! So we're here. This is the first episode of the new
no.
studio.
Oh,
We're so
my
successful
God.
so far.
Okay,
So
moving to point
This
4.
studio you see around us is brand new, bought with Let's Talk Lorehammer
If
money.
you had to condense Let's Talk Lorehammer
Uh-huh.
to a single sentence,
Yeah.
how would you share? What's that sentence?
It would start with "fuck" and then probably end with "yeah." The people have spoken. Join patreon.com/Let's Talk Lorehammer. That's patreon.com/Let's Talk Lorehammer.
Jeez.
And
Okay,
then all your hopes
okay.
and dreams will
Oh
come
my
true. You know?
God. I feel like you didn't actually say
I know,
anything
I was-
about
But if
what
somebody
it was.
didn't know what Let's Talk
Yeah,
Lorehammer
yeah, like-
was.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Let me restate the question,
Okay.
Dylan. I don't know what Let's Talk Lorehammer
'Kay.
is,
You
and
ma-
you have one sentence
Yep.
to tell me what your podcast.
It was the mistake that Mark and Eric made a few months ago when they approached me with an idea. And this idea was a beautiful blossoming idea. And it was from the
His
minds
sentence doesn't have commas,
wonder.
periods, or semicolons.
It's just a
just
story.
Look,
at
if
this
you
point.
like-
it's an epic.
If you like
Behold the young sir.
If you like this podcast, but you prefer it without Mark and Eric, listen to Let's Talk Lorehammer.
You know what?
It is what you've always wanted.
That's not bad. It's Lorehammer, Sans, Eric,
That should
and
be the
Mark.
tagline.
Look, it's featuring my boy Matt from across the pond. He's a wonderful soul, and we get along pretty well. But basically, it's a podcast about this podcast. I don't know what's up with that. Doesn't that seem a bit self-aggrandizing for you guys?
It's a little derivative, but
Very meta.
Meta?
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 Meta.
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 you say it however you
Potato,
want to
potato.
say it.
No,
That's
I won't
conversation.
allow that. Meta is not a word.
But
don't know what happened.
patreon.com/Let's
I'm sorry.
But basically, if you want to
Yeah.
get more involved in the community, if you want to know this giant festering mob of humans that have come to this podcast to get information, well, they actually communicate with each other, and that would be over the Discord.
Yeah.
And there's a big Discord. It's really big and large and green and full of Warband members, and you can come and be one. And then
I feel like you're still not
I know.
saying
it's
what the
just-
fuck you're talking
You know what,
about.
Dylan? We're gonna have to.
I'm going to cut you off here. So we started another podcast. It's called Lorehammer Let's Talk. And
We
it's
didn't.
basically...
Dylan did.
Dylan did, yes.
hey.
Yes, with our blessing. And basically it focuses on the community of Lorehammer. So we do stuff on our Discord, and people go on and join that that podcast and talk about whatever they're interested in. Yeah, but
We
really it's
focus
just
on the
kind of
story.
like...
Lorehammer. Let's Talk Lorehammer focuses on the people.
yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool. Go have a listen. They've got a couple
is.
episodes out now, so go take a peek.
Basically, all the content is from the community itself. So we'll
Yeah.
ask the community what it is they want to hear, and it's community segments. So we'll do things like this next episode coming up is like invent your own race. So if you were to create
Sure,
a new
that's
40K race for 40K, what would it be?
Sure.
So basically, we just read people's stories. We did a lore, our parody of the Listener Lore episode. We
Yikes.
did Lore Slammers, where basically we just roast people's miserable fanfiction lore. And
What's the difference?
Yeah, I thought
That's pretty much.
Sounds like what we do.
hey.
we get consent first.
Oh,
okay, yeah. I
that
guess.
makes
There you
sense.
go. And but yeah, and then we wrap it up with a spotlight interview. So we'll actually grab one of the members of the community in whatever time zone they're in, and we'll talk to them and see what makes them tick and what
Yeah.
got them into Lorehammer and Warhammer, and yeah, it's just a way to throw back,
Yeah, it's pretty
Very, very cool.
cool. All right, point 4.
All right, we're working our way through. We're almost.
We're almost to the episode.
almost-
This is the longest intro ever, I think,
Yeah.
but we'll get there. So, point 4, Liber Malleus. We started a Lorehammer official Space Marine chapter where you can buy into it and become a part of the chapter.
Be immortalized forever.
Yeah, you
in
get
plastic.
you get to name your Marine. You get to write a backstory for him. Then I'm gonna build, paint him, and then we keep him in the studio on a shelf with all the other people who've joined our chapter. So it's a great way to be a part and also help support the show. And just really give me free stuff, essentially.
They're very pretty. We're looking at them right now.
Yeah, no, they're nice.
Yeah, they're pretty neat.
Yeah.
It's a way for you to buy Space Marines without having to pay for Space Marines. You just have an army now.
In all fairness, this army is never getting used.
That's my question I was going to
It's
ask
too
you.
pretty.
Do you intend to play it? Like,
if
why would you?
You can't, because then the
Yeah.
people would die,
Exactly.
and that's too sad.
You went.
Because they have to stay alive. You,
You have
know?
to write them an email saying you were
Yeah,
killed in
sorry,
battle.
sorry,
killed
brother
every
Gracchus,
time.
but unfortunately,
Yeah.
you were killed by a lowly Necron.
Yeah, we require you
scarab.
to renew your membership fee. To the
Yeah,
chapter
yeah.
if you want
No,
back
yeah, there's a
in.
new spot open,
Otherwise, you
people
will
be
be
going-
right from the record.
Look,
Every model that dies, you just melt it down.
you should
And you
should
mail them that
Hardcore.
melted plastic.
you should take it to an actual like one of the best tournaments in the world, right? And put it out for grabs. So like you actually play with it, but anyone that dies is now removed from the Mammalia
Yeah.
permanently, and then new slots open, and that way it gets new people into the army.
Yeah, at some point,
kinda
if,
cool.
if it ever comes to the point
Yeah.
where, it's just maybe finished and people want an option, maybe we do that. I don't know. Who knows?
Is it legal to play with?
No.
Oh,
There will
Okay,
be
there you go.
enough in there that you could make a
Sure,
legal
sure. That's the
list.
thing.
Yeah.
You could make a legal one.
open
but-
play. I guess you do whatever you fucking want.
I do
A
that
crusade.
anyways, regardless.
Crusade.
Crusade.
That
You're a
was really
crazy-
fun.
you're a
How was
crazy-
your crusade experience, Eric?
Let's talk about something else.
Okay,
How about-
final point here, and then we're
Okay.
into our episode.
Yes.
This one's pretty cool.
So this is actually, we got some correspondence from Nova Open
Yep.
a little while ago, and what I have is I just have a little blurb that I'm going to read out, and then we can chat about it for a quick heartbeat. So the Nova Open Charitable Foundation, which helps unite the tabletop wargaming community in an annual charitable drive, raises money for Doctors Without Borders, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and Fisher House, which builds homes for military and veteran families to stay free of charge while a loved one is in the hospital. And every year they raise money, and last year it was more than $100,000, for these charities by running raffles of armies, units, and models from a variety of game systems painted by some incredible artists from across the community. The annual Nova Open Convention in Northern Virginia is a main way they're able to raise funds for the charities they support, but obviously with COVID, they've canceled the event for 2020, which really limits their ability to get the word out about their charitable drive.
Yeah.
So even though there won't be a Nova Open this year, the charities they support still need the help of this wargaming community, and 90% of every dollar raised goes to the charity, and they ship worldwide. So 90% is like a really large portion of proceeds to go straight to charity, and the opportunity to ship worldwide means that anyone can really participate in this. So now let's talk about the raffle prizes themselves. So right now they have 56 raffles running on the website, including a Blood Angels Primaris painted by Brent from Goobertown Hobbies and others, a 216-piece Ultramarine army painted by Dave Taylor, a Knight Errant painted by the famous Duncan Too Thin Coats Rhodes, and a gorgeous Daughters of Cain army by Castle Brush Studios. So the summer raffles are going to close Saturday, September 12th. So really, really fast.
So buy all of your tickets right now.
Yeah,
Right this
so
second.
go to their
minutes.
website. We'll have a link for it in our notes. Go to their website, check out all the different raffles. Like some of these are amazing.
Oh yeah. These are
And-
not just like I gave an army and like, oh, here's my army.
Yeah,
These
no.
are professional painters, professional armies. Like, they're amazing.
Very, very well done. The raffle entry points are really cheap. I
Yeah.
was looking, some of them, it's $8 for a raffle ticket, and
You could win like 2,000 functional points of a beautifully painted army.
it's kind of crazy. So, but
And you
also,
can feel good that you helped.
Yeah, it
support a
supports
cause.
a really nice cause.
Look, I
so-
like breasts. I'm sure you guys like breasts. We can support breasts. Go donate or go join the raffles.
Save the breasts.
Save the breasts.
Save the breasts.
Yeah,
Buy
That's
an
what I'm
army.
trying to say.
And if that's not your thing, you're gonna find another reason for contributing. So
You know someone with breasts you would like to save. So I mean,
there's
Hopefully.
Sure. You know what? If that's what it takes you guys to do it, then yes. I'm happy for you
top
guys.
tier painted army. They do look gorgeous. Like,
They
this
they
is-
are very, very nice. We'll even put some pictures behind our when we release this episode on our
Sure.
Instagram and stuff, so you guys can take a peek.
Nice.
But yeah, other than that, I think we're
We're ready to start the episode.
holy moly. It's been a long time since we've
We've covered breasts. The next note is nipples. And then
Dylan, no, wrong notes. wrong
areola
notes.
is under that.
Dylan, no, different page. Different. That's for our next
Let's
podcast.
talk
Oh,
Warhammer. Yeah.
Should I get invited back, please? Sounds like a way better time.
So today's episode is actually all about Psykers and
Yeah.
beings that interact with warp energies and warp powers in some way.
Yeah. We've tossed out the word psyker so many times. I got an email the other week like, hey, what are psykers? I'm like, have we never actually talked about them?
That's when you're like, oh,
oh,
no.
like psykers are just one of those like 40K things that just seem so obvious. Like you overlook it because you
Yeah.
think everyone knows exactly what they are.
Yeah, it almost is like it doesn't matter what portion of lore you dive into, you will inevitably come across this.
But
So
then
you
the
just,
term itself is pretty much only like you don't. That's not like you could use the word like wizard or sorcerer across a lot of different genres of
Yeah.
fantasy, but psyker is kind of like uniquely 40,000.
yeah, that's
you know?
true as well. And while you might even call these wizards or sorcerers, like it's not
not
the
just that.
current
Yeah.
term. That would be more like a slang, if anything.
They're
If I'm
wizards.
explaining it to like somebody who has no
Space
idea
wizards.
what a psyker is, they're space wizards.
They're wizards.
Yeah.
They're straight up. This podcast is about wizards and space.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
first
that's
they go to
fine.
Hogwarts, space Hogwarts, and then they grow up, and there's a big bad.
You're a
and-
psyker, Harry.
I would watch that movie. Yeah, could you imagine?
Someone just showed me the meme. It's like, this isn't going to Hogwarts, and he pulls up his like head, and instead of showing the lightning symbol, it's
Yeah.
the 8-pointed star.
Oh,
And Ron is just
Hagrid's eyes explode out of his head. Like,
Yeah.
But it's more than just space wizards, right? There's more.
Oh
to it,
yeah,
'cause
yeah.
it's-
There's a lot of cool stuff here. So we're getting to the episode.
yeah.
Psykers are beings that possess the ability to tap into the warp and draw from the energies to create different psychic powers and effects.
So they've been a constant in the galaxy since as early as we can possibly tell, starting with the first spacefaring race, which is the Old Ones, which we talked about, and they existed 60 million years ago.
Yeah.
So they were actually masters of the warp. and undertook many great works of psychic engineering, including creating or seeding many powerful psychic races. And we've even thrown around the fact that they might have just psychically created beings.
Yeah.
And they also just might have used their own knowledge to manipulate things in like evolution at a psychic level. So there's any kind of way you can imagine them engineering life with psychic force. Like they were even capable of that.
Yeah.
So.
Could you say that like Psykers would be as old as the warp? Like the connection is like you can't separate those two things. For as long as there's been a warp, there's been the warp's connection to conscious bodies, and then therefore there has been some kind of psycho.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think you could make an argument for that.
Because that's what makes us different than a wizard, right? Like wizard's connection to magic, but the magic isn't an entity in the same way that the warp is. Like it's a thing. It's an ethereal plane that kind of fucking exists. So
Right, and the more that people interact with it,
Yeah.
the more fucked up it gets over time.
it's a different thing.
Oh, it's nice.
It was like a virgin entity at one point, and then that you could argue was maybe its most powerful if these races were, doing such feats as psychically like engineering other species to exist, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when the old ones were around, the warp was very stable. Like there was
Right.
no chaos
right.
gods. Even there was.
Yeah.
There were just little pockets of almost just mis-energies, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, they had complete control over it. They were
Yeah.
masters of it,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even like their technology, like they built the webway that the Eldar eventually inherited. Like they they knew how to work it.
yeah.
Whether the whole old one race was a psychic race or who knows, we don't know. There's really no information on the old ones, but that is our first example of Psykers in the galaxy.
It's cool.
But many different races have the ability to pull energy from the warp. We don't know exactly how the ability to manifest powers occur. Even in the same race, Psykers may or may not occur in similar ways.
Yeah, sometimes it feels very arbitrary, and then sometimes it feels very well written and concrete and established, and you can predict things, and other times you just can't. So
yeah, and this isn't just like a lack of information, like GW just hasn't written about it. It's intentionally like this. Everything with the warp is intentionally unpredictable and in flux.
Yeah,
including Psykers and how they work.
Sometimes an entire race is psychic from birth, while other races are incapable of manifesting anything, no matter what trials or tribulations they're put through, or no matter any changes that you might force upon them. They can't manifest it.
Yeah.
So there's rules. There's rules for like psychic energy and where it can go, and who can become psychic and how psychic they are.
It's almost like we can see the effects of these rules, but we have no idea how to enforce them ourselves.
Yeah.
We see that there is a race who is all psychic, and every single one of them are psychers, but we have no idea why every one of them is a psyker.
Yeah.
Right?
The other crazy thing too is like you don't have to necessarily be a sentient, fully conscious race or whatever
race.
Yeah,
that
to be able to use psychic powers.
You don't have to be self-aware.
My all-time favorite psyker of all time is the Crotalids. So they're these crocodiles that are psychers, and they have the ability to manifest warp portals and migrate across the galaxy by going into these warp portals and then just appearing randomly across the galaxy
to feed.
Yeah, so you don't have to be like, you don't have to have
knowledge,
an IQ of 150 to be warp capable to be a psyker.
What are the Tau doing? They need to enslave these aliens.
They're right
Oh
on their backs.
yeah, exactly. Then they just spread out.
Just have the crocodiles on leashes, and they just summon a portal for me.
Thank you, warp crocodile.
They just appear
they
in
got their-
Ultramar.
Oh no, the
There
tower
you
back,
go.
and they
We
brought
figured
crocodile.
it out.
Crocodile and birds. Recruit.
It's pretty strong.
So even though there are, you don't have to be a specific IQ, but also power seems to also be random.
Yeah,
The
even from person to person, species to species.
Yes,
like it's
like
all.
Mark's power level and my power level, my ability to manifest, they'll be completely different, and there's no reason or rhyme why one of us will be more powerful than the other. And so that even follows from species to species.
Yeah.
Every Eldar is, going to be a strong psyker, but there's still power variances between them for some reason.
Yeah.
And like, can it be trained, or is it a completely random roll of the dice?
You can train your psychic ability, but at some point you just reach a peak.
Right.
And
You
as far
plateau
as
to your natural limits,
yeah, you can reach your potential, but your potential only goes so high.
determined at birth, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sometimes beings are also latent psychers, which means they're psychers, but they don't even know it. They don't have the ability, or maybe they're sleeping and they cast a psychic power or whatever, but they don't know. And they only have the ability to access the warp after a traumatic event or extreme training regimens, or maybe they just wake up one day and now they've unlocked their latent psychic ability.
For no reason
Like,
whatsoever.
it's literally just
maybe
random.
an eclipse happens and all of a sudden half the population can now manifest psychic powers.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's no reason for it
I
at all.
really enjoyed that. I really fuck with that because it introduces the concept of like an awakening. And so it's like at some point we could all be latent psychers and have no idea, and then suddenly one day something happens and we wake up and we got superpowers. That's a lot
the
of
human race now.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like
not?
that's some fairy tale shit. There's some like cool like comic book stuff.
Oh, very much.
It's
so,
very sick that way.
Especially when you look at it at the micro level. You look at it on a planet where they have no idea about the Emperor. They have no idea about humanity. They're all just living their lives.
Right.
And all of a sudden, one of them, he wakes up, or they wake up, and all of a sudden they can manifest lightning out of their eyes. No one has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
They would literally be a god.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's kind of crazy when you look at individual case by case how people could react to manifesting psychic powers.
Like, just imagine if Tau ever got psychers, like the very first psychic Tau.
Yeah.
Like, what would the rest of the Tau think about that?
Absolutely,
Right?
yeah.
Like, that would be a crazy
how would that
thing.
shift?
Like,
Would they all try and replicate? Oh my god.
would that even change the caste system?
The
Would there be
ethereal
then a
cast
sixth-
would just kill the guy.
Is there now a psychic cast?
Yeah, exactly. Is there a
Right.
sixth cast? Like, who knows?
And
Like,
he's not even using a crocodile. Like, he's, oh my god.
Jerry lost an arm so he could name this crocodile.
You're just going with that one.
oh my god.
No, I mean and that's really cool, and that invites a lot of like additional lore that ever got written. But
Well, yeah, not only that, but it's even been speculated that you can create psychic ability in others.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So sometimes the psychic trait is genetic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can follow it through genetic lines, and other times you can't.
Yeah.
Because other times it doesn't work like that.
It just happens.
But yeah, breeding psychers with other psychers also appears to have a higher success rate of creating psychers than just randomly throwing people and just getting like random populations out. So
Yeah, but even like if you take two powerful psychers, there's still no guarantee.
yeah, it's not a
that's even good.
guarantee.
Right.
Like even the
Yeah.
fraction and percentage of them, it only goes up a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
it's by no means like, yeah, you just start breeding psychers, now we got psychers. You're still rolling dice.
so is that
for
genetic?
sure.
It's
It's
like it's
space
some
science,
weird
genetic,
magic,
yeah,
space
like-
but
sensitivity energy.
It is
It's
and
like-
it isn't.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to say that in some cases there seems to be like a psychic heritage that
Yeah.
can follow, but in some cases you might not. So
And then there's other things where navigators who are imperial citizens who have the ability to see into the warp and navigate the ships.
yeah, they
through
have
the warp.
the third eye.
Yep, they have the third eye. But every navigator who is born, or every navigator who has a child, is also a navigator. So that one is a
Yes.
very direct example of like,
It's a weird mutation that
Yeah.
also brings psychic power along with it.
and it's a
Right.
guaranteed one.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one is guaranteed.
Can the navigator do anything else psychically, or is that its only purpose?
So
Like, is that its only
'Cause they're technically
ability
not
to
s-
touch the warp?
yeah, like so if you look into its third eye, it will melt your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you're staring into the warp itself.
Yeah, so that could maybe be a psychic power,
Sure.
maybe, but I don't think it's common for them to be casting lightning bolts.
Right.
But having said that, who the fuck knows,
Sure.
right? There might be navigators out there who are actually really powerful psychers beyond just being a navigator.
Sure.
So even in that next thing, as with all things involving warp, like our next line, it's unpredictable and unquantifiable.
That's a good word.
Sure.
Because not only that, but like the majority of psychers aren't casting lightning bolts.
Sure.
No.
They're not. Like
No.
that's a very powerful psychic manifestation is the
Yeah.
ability. Even the
Yeah.
like mutation of a third eye and seeing to the warp is very powerful.
Yeah.
You know, and the majority of people are just gonna fall insane and die and kill themselves as
Yeah.
soon
Yeah.
as that they realize that's
Yeah.
happening to them. So like a lot of people think that, oh, if that person's a psyker, it means that, you know, they're summoning demons and opening portals and everything. But
Yeah.
chances are good that person is, you know, manipulating energies in the room and maybe moving a glove if
Sure.
they can manage it, or reading the energies off of other people, detecting truth versus lies, or putting someone to sleep. Or it's way more common that you have a lot lesser degree power than the ability to break a titan in half.
Sure.
Reasonably.
We go over the Imperium actually has what they call the assignment, where they actually have categories of power levels, and the one category is described really cool, where it's just they seem to be lucky.
Yeah.
Like, so they're just using their psychic ability and they're creating things like to make them seem lucky.
Yeah, it's
you
just,
know, and it's unconscious.
if random chance is just always better in that person's presence.
He's
you
always
know?
rolling 5s and 6s with his dice. Like, it's just like that's his psychic ability. So lots of people are like that.
When he opens a
whereas-
box, he got twice the amount of models in it that he paid for.
Oh my god.
Huh.
It might happen. You never know. He just manipulates chance.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, majority of psychers are not these all-powerful, crazy beings. They're mostly minor things, but it gets crazy quick as well.
There's enough of us out there that there are some wild
And
mutations.
especially since this is not only it's cross race, it's cross the galaxy.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
fucking animals. You could have a psychic ant, like
absolutely.
The
knows?
crocodile guys, right?
the
Like-
crocodile.
exactly,
So
yeah.
So when you have that big of a pool to draw from, there are a lot of powerful psychers still.
But also
For
the
sure.
ones we care the most about are the guys that shoot lightning and snap titans in
Yeah.
half. That
Yes.
makes the most interesting stories.
Mostly, yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is, even though they can shoot lightning, being a psyker is very much a double-edged sword.
Okay.
So you might have powers beyond everyone else's understanding and abilities, but their soul is constantly being hunted by entities in the warp who are looking to devour or consume them, or, you know, even worse, possession. You know, they want to take your soul and ride it and go into your body and claim what it is and perform dark rites around them. And
Because if you're a psyker, you have a closer connection to the warp, so it's going to be a more powerful host for demons to inhabit.
absolutely
Lucky.
yeah. Stronger, more connection for sure.
So what does that look like? Like, say, for instance, I do have psychic abilities. In what way am I haunted or hunted? Like, is it just whispers in your ear? Does demons coming to the ethereal plane, you're having to fight them? Like, what does it look like?
It's going to be different for everyone,
Sure.
I think, because like whispers in the ear is a very common one. Visions, haunting, you know, like
dreams
just
and shit. Yeah,
blood
sure.
everywhere, and but also like I think I read once where someone was constantly blacking out and they were just doing things that they didn't understand while they were blacked
so
out.
It's like minor possession.
It's
yeah.
like anything you can possibly think of about an entity trying to take over your mind, that can happen, because it's happened so often that they're just going to prey on your fears too.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're fearing, that's probably what's going to happen.
Interesting. That's it's some good horror movie shit, you know.
Oh, very
like
much.
waking up somewhere and not knowing any idea how you got there. You know, there's blood on your hands. Or I really like the idea of kind of just having flashing visions and things like that.
Yeah.
I can see that. That's pretty thematic. That's good.
For sure. Yeah.
The whispers and promises of chaos are strong, and often psychers will fully give themselves to chaos to further gain power for themselves. Like, maybe they just have the ability to move a glove, like Eric said, but then they give themselves to chaos, and now they are, like, you know, an alpha level psyker.
Sure, they're shooting lightning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're crushing tanks with their mind.
Yeah. And this brings us to probably the most important thing about being a psyker, and that is every psyker, if you want to be a good one and survive, you have to have an incredible amount of willpower. You have to be in control of what you do, because if not, if you let yourself slip, boom, now you're possessed. Or, you know, it's just, you got to be on your shit.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
If you want to stay you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, some people are more than happy to offer themselves up to for promises of power and knowledge and understanding, and others go about it in very different ways.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
if
man.
you want to stay who you are, you better be
I'm fucked.
solid.
This is not good for me.
Yeah.
I
I think most people probably don't have enough willpower for that.
No, probably not.
we have the Imperial sanction to protect us.
Right.
So that's kind of a little taste of what it means and feels like to be a psyker.
Sure.
So let's talk about how a couple of the main factions in 40K interact with their psykers.
Sorry, one more quick thing to clarify, though, is that even if you are not a psyker, most beings will still have an impact on the warp. So it's not just Psykers that impact the warp.
Yeah.
So in a way, almost everyone kind of is a Psyker.
Well, no, because they can't
they're
manipulate
not
the
manipulating.
energy.
Yeah.
The psychic channels the warp. Yeah.
Maybe that's not quite the right thing to say,
But everyone is connected to the warp.
everyone is still connected, but that doesn't make you a Psyker.
It's like saying everybody has a soul, and in some way that could be related to, different things, but not everyone has a communication or a way to channel it,
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah.
So like Eric said, let's jump into the main factions and kind of Psykers in them.
Okay.
So in humanity's early history, there were humans called shamans. They had the ability to access the warp. One of the craziest things the shamans were capable of doing was the ability to reincarnate into a new form.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck
Some
yeah.
World of Warcraft shit. It's good.
Yeah.
That's definitely cool.
So over time, the shaman started sensing that the warp was becoming more and more dangerous, because this is early human history, so
But they also
Whatever
started to
that would be.
have visions.
Yeah.
And
and
every time they would try and reincarnate themselves, it became more and more dangerous.
Yeah, because
things
chaos
were
entities were being
they were
created.
starting to learn that these beings were like good, and they would consume these beings that could actually manipulate psychic powers. So
Yeah.
the shamans are like, oh man, like we're in danger.
Yeah,
Stop
they,
dabbling.
and not only did they feel like they were in danger, they were also terrified for the future of humanity.
Yeah.
So all the shamans gathered together in one place for the most important meeting in human history. The debate is said to have lasted centuries. Just imagine that. So they literally
because you reincarnate into yourself and then you rejoin this debate.
Yeah,
Like that's so crazy.
yeah.
This perpetual campfire, they're all sitting around.
Yeah.
Just trying
We
to
go for a
solve-
walk. No, we have to settle this. We have to do it now.
200-year argument.
Jesus.
I thought me and Eric were bad for that kind of shit, but my God.
Wait till you guys start reincarnating.
You'll get there.
Small potatoes.
I'm gonna reincarnate to finish this argument.
So after which they did come to a consensus. After which they came to a consensus that they
They
along with
decided that they were
humanity-
doomed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were ultimately doomed and would soon fall prey to the growing psychic entities. In
What a
the warp.
horrible outcome.
Yeah. Well, boys, we're fine.
Yeah, after 300 years of
Sorry,
arguing,
boys.
they're just like, yeah, we're definitely screwed. Like, I guess that's it, hey?
But they came up with a plan, so they actually ended up committing mass ritual suicide, and as they died, they
Sick.
pooled their
My
combined
God.
energies, reincarnating into a single body. Within a year, this soul found its human host, which is interesting. The Emperor. So they made the Emperor.
Oh,
But
I thought it was Keanu Reeves.
It might as well be.
yeah. So they gave birth to the Emperor, but it almost sounds like that the Emperor was a normal child at some point, almost like they
Like
found their human, they found their host.
He's
Or
possessing
maybe-
something.
Yeah, or maybe everyone exists in the warp before they're born. Who knows? It's all crazy warp nonsense.
Yeah, I think you
But-
could just come up with some really interesting fan theory
Sure,
about
sure.
a lot of that.
Oh yes.
His origins,
Yeah.
really. So
But yeah, so they commit mass suicide and they created the being
Yeah.
called the Emperor of Mankind.
Who gave birth to the Emperor then? Because it would have gone in. It said gave birth, right?
yes,
So
like
I take that
he grew
literally.
up as a human child.
Sure,
Yeah.
but then what did he just appear out of the fucking nothing, or did he actually have a mother?
He
Man.
just like
Yeah, we just don't know.
Interesting,
amalgamated out of the pool of blood that all the shamans.
Like blue,
Yeah,
blue
like
essence.
full blown Diablo
That would be
shit.
fucking actually sick.
Save us, mother.
I
Yeah,
don't
yes.
think- I don't think that's our Lord and Savior. I think he's come to fuck us. But
my
no,
God.
imagine if the Emperor had a mum. That's actually kind of a cool concept.
He did have an uncle.
Yeah.
Who killed his father?
Yeah, so
Oh,
who
interesting.
knows if that was
According to some stories,
Yeah.
you know,
But- and
records
even
from
that,
that
like-
long ago are so impossible.
Yeah.
Anyways, so after this emperor was born, this godchild, so Psykers would go pretty much dormant in humanity for thousands of years, and they wouldn't make like a true resurgence until around M22 when the psychic mutation became
wow.
increasingly common in humanity. So this kind of presaged the emergence of humanity as a psychic race.
Yeah.
Really. And this was the beginning of the era of strife.
Yeah.
Yeah, so warp travel became increasingly difficult.
And
Right.
what became even more hostile.
Yeah,
and-
it seems like when the warp begins to grow in tumultuous like storms and massive, energies that are breaking away, it also seems to affect the number of psychers in reality,
Sure.
people who can manifest it and manipulate it. So
It's very, it's very interesting to me that like the shaman's ritual was able to like force the human gene into dormancy, at least for that long of a period.
Yeah, because they was speaking to the shamans originally, and they were the connection.
And they were like, "Oh, this
And
is
then
kind of getting scary." And
then
then
they shut it down.
And then for 20,000 years, there
Yeah.
wasn't another powerful
Well,
psychic entity. From
way longer than
mankind.
20,000 years. Like he might have been around
Yeah,
for
sure.
like much before
Yes.
that. So,
Yeah.
but I think that's an interesting thought though, because it almost makes me feel like the emperor actively suppressed it.
Right, because
Because-
he had the prior knowledge from the shamans
Absolutely,
of it being
and
such
he
a
knew
dangerous thing.
Humanity
Yeah,
was
yeah,
not
absolutely.
ready for it.
Yeah,
So I
Yeah.
feel like that could be a really cool story of him actively seeking out other beings who are having this mutant gene and
Yeah.
then
Killing them.
truly, killing them, and, maybe dispersing them so
Genocidal
they can't
suppression of
reincarnate.
Yeah,
the
that's,
psychic gene.
that sounds
Yeah,
like par
honestly,
for the
yeah.
course for the emperor.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's doing it for the good of humanity,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily good for us.
He's
so.
playing the long game.
But yeah, it also could just be that something the shamans did themselves actively
Right.
got rid of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, fucking interesting.
So in M40, the Imperium of Man believes that, left unchecked, Psykers present a potential danger to entire worlds. Because you have these guys that could literally throw a fit and blow up a planet accidentally.
Yeah.
So they're
Or on purpose.
or fucking on
Yeah.
purpose. Oh god, I didn't even consider that.
Intention and
Oh
malice. yeah.
god.
Malice aforethought.
And much of the Inquisition's role is focused on hunting them down. The Imperium ensures Psykers are suppressed, tracked down, and controlled. Those strong enough will be recruited into Imperial service, fulfilling vital roles in the Imperium and becoming sanctioned Psykers. So, some of them will become astropaths, some of them will become Space Marine librarians or battle Psykers,
Some will be fed into the Astronomicon.
Oof,
you know?
yeah, exactly. So,
But yeah, if you're born a powerful cycler, you're just like you're drafted in.
Oh, yeah.
You
You
can't
are
be left
special,
unchecked.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
need
at
some
that
serious
point.
conditioning in order to
Yeah.
just kind of give up this
Survive.
superpower that you've got, I
Sure.
guess.
You'll just pop otherwise.
Yeah, maybe you do it for your own good. Maybe you realize it's actually the only option available to you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're on a world where there's not a lot of education
Yeah.
and you're just as much of a danger to yourself as everyone else around you. So.
Yeah.
So there are many different types of sanctioned psychers in the Imperium, from powerful Astartes librarians who wage war using destructive psychic powers to humble astropaths who send messages through the warp across the galaxy to a guy who's in the entourage of an inquisitor and he has his luck.
yeah, yeah.
So anything,
Or even just like acts as like a psychic shield for him. Or
absolutely,
whatever.
yeah. As long as the Imperium has a purpose for you and they don't consider you an immediate threat and danger, they're gonna find a place for you.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
presumably that place is on the black ships and in the Astronomicon. But
I don't know if you said, but so Psykers are still fairly rare in humanity, maybe like 1 in a million.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
and that's not an exact number, but
Yeah, and it's going to change from world to world.
Yeah.
No complete statistic on that is available because
Yeah.
the galaxy is so widespread.
but that's
right?
kind of
So-
the general consensus.
And is
so
that like any psychic level, or is that
that's like any psychic level?
Oh, it's not
Yeah.
like the powerful
No,
psychers are
that's
1 in a
just,
million.
Like,
It's
yeah,
like
so the powerful Psykers,
Lucky
you're
Joe
like 1
Schmo
in a
is 1 in a.
billion,
Oh, okay.
you know?
Wow.
Shit.
yeah, fun times.
There'd be 7 on Earth right now.
Oh god.
I really enjoy the
Wow,
really
yeah.
subtle psychic
That
ability.
metric.
Like the guy who can control his own die. But he's the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
person that knows about it, but so inconspicuous, no one else would. It's
Yeah.
like having a psychic ability of no matter what car park I drive into, there's always an empty car park to for you to park
That's
in.
your psychic power.
Just super low key and subtle, always rolling 6s.
For some reason,
Man.
when you go to see a movie, the perfect seat is always available.
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's
Because you
completely sold
exploded
out.
the person who
Well,
sat
naturally.
there. Well, you sucked them into the warp because you don't want to.
Yeah, yeah.
You wake
don't
up,
wanna-
you
you don't wanna
always
get
have
messy.
perfect hair. You never have to brush your
That's
comb.
your
Yeah.
psychic
It's just
power.
They never get your order wrong when you go to a fast food restaurant.
It's always fresh.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
right.
The ice cream machine at
Ooh,
McDonald's
salty
always
fries.
works.
Yeah,
If-
I live a convenient life. Yes.
Even if it was broken right before you came in, it just works when you're in the show. Yeah. That's the kind of psychic power I could get with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, well, let's go on from the Imperium and let's talk about the Eldar race.
Oh, there's some Imperium slides. Hey,
Ooh.
if you're on our Patreon for $2, you get access to video content, and I like to
Put
think
up
that I pull up
amazingly-
slides.
Yeah, we'll pull the slides up 5 minutes after
Yeah,
we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eldar.
Oh,
here we
Eldar.
go.
There we go.
You know what? They're not even that pixelated.
How dare you?
As a compliment.
Are these photos from the Lawhammer barbecue? Is that
Yeah,
is
that
this
was
what I missed out on.
As you
before?
can see there.
Yeah, it was a
that's
cosplay event.
Dylan on the left.
Okay.
Ian in the middle. Rio on the right.
Cool.
So.
I like it. Yeah, you captured us perfectly.
So the Eldar race is gifted with many benefits at birth. They're just better,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So long life, quick of mind, quick of body, but probably way crazier.
Potty.
Quick
Quick potty. Is that what I heard?
They
as
are
well?
quick of body. They are fast
You
of
can
body.
Go to the toilet really
Small
fast.
bladders.
But probably one of the craziest things, or most importantly, is that they're all psychic.
Exactly.
Now, from birth, you know, these are just almost just a psychic being,
Yeah.
really. So they actively cultivate psychic potential from an early age, and it requires Eldars to exercise very consistent and constant restraint to avoid a mental breakdown. They, based on some crazy stuff that happened in their past, they decided that the best way to live for them is to kind of block off a lot of their psychic abilities until they're able to handle them one at a time, slowly and individually. So
Compartmentalize.
absolutely,
Channel
yeah.
and focus.
Bottled up. Bottle his feelings up, Eldar.
There's no muggles here, eh? No muggles in this one. It's definitely, everyone's got something going on.
Yeah, so even though they're actually a very crazy potential race, they are not living out a full psychic potential that they could.
Yeah.
Because they do make sure that they're very restrained.
On purpose, yeah.
Yeah, they might
Yes.
birth another god or something.
Yeah, they don't want that to happen.
God forbid.
Only one. Come on, humanity did 3. I love it. So Eldar who are actively engaging in training their mind and their powers travel the path of the seer. And depending on their abilities will fulfill a few different roles in Eldar society. So they have Farseers who are really good at reading the future and they direct the craft world. They also
They are on the council, right,
Yeah.
of people who lead it.
They also have Warlocks who are battle psychers.
Who help them, win their battles and point them on the right path again.
Yeah.
So.
So they got a bunch of different actual psychic kind of paths that they can go down.
And all of them are pretty respected and elevated in Eldar society because it's such a danger what they're doing.
Yeah.
Every other Eldar kind of recognizes the sacrifice that they make by putting themselves
Yeah.
in such peril.
Yeah, putting their soul on the line for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
I struggle to multitask. I mean, and this seems like some kind of severely, this is the next level above that. So.
I'm gonna say it right now, Dylan. Please don't go on Path of the Seer.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm
try.
here
I'm gonna
for.
try. I'm gonna try. Oh no, new slash. Fuck.
Farseer Dylan.
See you, Dylan.
What
Coming
should
at
I
you.
What should I invest in with all my money?
Wait, let me
Grapes?
the internet. I heard it's gonna be popular.
Okay.
I visited the factory of the internet the other day. It was pretty nice. I watched them harvest internet and
Put it in boxes.
spin it, and package it up
Yeah,
and
sure.
ship it out. So
Try to
it was
vacuum
very
seal
nice.
it.
Yeah. It was very cool. I didn't know.
I didn't either.
I learned a lot.
Did you meet Mr. Internet?
I
the
didn't.
guy who
I didn't, but I
invented-
met his son, Bill Gates.
Oh, okay. Fuck that clown. Yeah, all right.
and his
he just
his,
stole the idea.
His other twin, Steve Jobs.
Okay, we don't talk about that.
They
He
inherited.
got suicided by Bill Gates.
And that's a fact. So the majority of Eldar technology also is psychically resonant. So they use what's called Wraithbone, and it's crystallized warp energy. And with it, they're able to craft weapons, armor, buildings, all type of things.
Planets.
Planets, yeah. Yeah, so it plays a huge factor in a lot of their technology. But they also have spirit stones, and as I mentioned, the webway that the old ones named.
Yeah, all things that are directly tied to psychic powers and the warp. So it just shows you how, the more you look at the Eldar, the more you realize how completely intertwined they are
It's
with
embedded,
the
yeah.
warp.
Yeah, even though they guard themselves from the warp, they still...
But they live in warp structures and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, that part is really cool.
For sure. Yes. What are they called? What are the guys who manipulate Wraithbone?
Bone
Bone
singers.
Yeah,
They
they're
actually.
very cool. Yeah.
I remember that from an episode of Lawhammer. It's a podcast I listen to. Maybe you guys should check it out. It's not as good as Let's Talk Lawhammer. Let's Talk Lawhammer. Patreon.com/Let's Talk Lawhammer. But I
Join my
mean,
Patreon.
you guys can just join my Patreon. You can find pretty good episodes there.
Where's the mute button?
Just unplug.
Unplug it.
Yank.
Unplug.
The Warband's taking over. Okay.
Let's talk about kind of just another similar thing to the Eldar is the Dark Eldar. So they're similar in nature to the Eldar,
Here we go.
but they have given up the use of psychic powers. So it's kind of a weird thing because you can see them with psychic objects still, but anyone who's actively manipulating psychic energy on Komorra, which is their city, is usually treated with great caution, fear, probably just death.
Yeah.
And because of the nature of their city, the use of psychic powers is one of the few things that they actually actively forbid.
Yeah, it's a no-go.
It's funny though because you could say that the ones turned into Dark Eldar probably were pumping that psychic pretty hard pre-fall.
absolutely.
You
Like
know,
that sentence,
they were
pumping that
they were really into it, and then they were like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
pump the brakes, boys! Things got really weird."
There's a weird thing in their publication that talks about how actually when Dark Eldar are born, they're not psychic, and that they've like lost the ability to do it. But I don't.
Severed.
It doesn't really make much sense to me because then it's not a forbidden thing if you actively can't manipulate it, right?
Yeah.
Like
you either have it or you don't. You can't like.
Another way they've described it too is that it's just been atrophied. Their psychic ability, they still have it. If they worked hard enough, they could maybe get some degree of it back.
Right.
But
I like that.
it's not super clear in how.
let's just chalk this one up to it's the warp. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
I
Maybe
think,
it comes back. Maybe it doesn't.
Maybe it don't. I don't. Yeah.
You either
Nobody
get,
knows.
You either get the letter to Hogwarts or you don't. All right, you can't just complain about it.
So that's Dark Eldar. They really don't use Psykers at all.
No, they actively avoid them
Yeah.
for sure. They don't want that attention from all those beings that want to eat your brains.
Yeah. I totally want to do the next one.
Okay, lay it into us.
Show us a picture, Marcus.
Warg.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a Dark
Alrighty,
Eldar.
we have. Oh, that's pretty. Hey, g'day, mate. Oh, that's a happy-looking chap. Look at him. He's all green with energy. He's all green with his skin. He's just having a great time.
They've got their copper staffs, their
He's-
warding staffs.
He's vomited up some hate crime and some juicy wogness.
in 240p.
If you're lucky.
Big money boy.
If you're lucky.
So we have orc psychers are unique in that they draw their psychic power from other orcs instead of directly from the warp. So I mean, does anybody else do that? No. That's why they're unique.
Not really.
Yeah.
Tyranids have another really weird thing that gets
Yeah.
more powerful the more
Yeah.
there are, but it's not. I don't think it's the
Not to
same
do
as
with the warp.
orcs.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because that goes into like the big rabble of orcs, and like the more scary, the more numerous they are.
Yeah.
Large mob of orcs tends to generate what has become known as a war field, which is then absorbed by the orc psychers, known as weird boys. We covered an episode on that. I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was one of my favorite
Yeah,
episodes. Go
the Weird
listen to
Boy
it.
one's
pretty
Weird
cool.
Boy episode was
Pretty
pretty
cool.
cool.
Weird boys and other weird.
Yeah, Weird Boys and Weird Boys.
Yeah. Weird boys have little control over this, and too much of a build-up will likely explode the orc's head and devastate the surrounding area.
Yeah, for some reason, they just act as a focus point for all this wog energy that's constantly being generated by these orcs that are doing orky stuff. So it's you better be grounded, or else you're just gonna explode.
Yeah, that's a good way. It's like a static discharge.
It's
almost.
a lightning rod, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Which is
build up,
why
build
they carry their copper staffs. I learned that during the episode. They carry it to help discharge energy into the ground.
Oh, really?
Because
So
sometimes
crazy.
they just can't hold all of it.
Yeah, they live on.
It's like me with a fidget spinner at work. It's like I need something else to distract me, you know.
Crazy.
Weird boys live outside of the town from the rest of the orcs, and they live on like these four
Stilts.
stilts. They live on stilts that
that's
are made
right.
of copper,
Yeah.
so
What?
that they're always grounded.
Yeah, and their
Yeah,
houses.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
no matter what they're in the house, it's just constantly making sure that energy is
I
pumping
remember
into the
that.
ground.
They
So
just like
cool.
blow up if that doesn't.
Yeah,
make sense.
if they're not
Not
if they're not paying
discharged.
attention, right? So
Yeah.
See, it's interesting because it says it's warp energy, right? But it's drawing it from orcs.
I
Is
think
it orc energy or is it warp energy?
I think it's warp energy that is only really accessible in large quantities when other orcs are donating their stuff to you.
you need that conduit of a massive group of orcs
Yeah.
in order for them to get the orc energy itself. warp
Like
energy.
It's just
if you picture it like a static charge, you can rub your hands together and
Yeah.
get a static charge, or you can rub a lot like massive
Bigger
metal
hands,
plates
Mark's
together
hands.
to get like more charge. Right? So,
yeah,
odd, but
I think that's kind of what it is.
it's a
Is
bigger,
that
yeah.
the energy is from the warp, but it's only
in order
through,
to access it.
Yeah, large
Just
groupings
rub
of orcs.
2 orcs together. Eventually, they'll generate a warp charge.
You rub 2
Just
orcs
by,
together
like,
and you just throw them.
That won't
Just
end well.
rubbing
Just a
together.
plasma ball.
throw
like
the
that.
orcs. Yeah.
Exactly.
The powers of Weird Boys are unpredictable and may have catastrophic results, but the gains from these units are often seen by the war boss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even though it's devastating, the war bosses realize that, okay, if I just point your head this way,
Yeah.
I'll probably do some damage to the enemy.
Might be good. You might die, but
Yeah, it's a
so might they.
sacrifice I'm willing to make.
And are the orcs like affinity to like make things work connected to like the psychic latent ability that they all have?
Yeah, that's a huge big topic. I recommend just go listening to that Weird Boy
Yeah,
episode because it's a whole big thing, and it's
Like
changed so many
not
times.
official. It's been that way in the past, but
It's-
then they've debated
They've
it.
written it, and they haven't written anything to unwrite it, but they
Sure.
also haven't written anything recently to support it.
I got
So
you.
it's such a
Yeah.
it's in a weird limbo state right now.
It's
Yeah.
whatever you want it to be at this
So,
point of it, essentially.
Kind of, yeah.
But no, I love the Weird Boy energy. Like it's
It's
cool.
so cool.
It's so big
Yeah.
D energy. It's
So-
just like fucking explosive, and it gets better the more people you have. It's
You know
like,
what? Orcs are kind of treated like orc psychers are kind of treated how human psychers are treated, I think, in
Rounded
terms
up.
of they're rounded up, they're kind of
Recruited.
ostracized. You know, other people don't really want to be around these beings because they're too unpredictable. But as long as there's a purpose for what you're doing, your authority or higher ups will find a place for you.
Yeah.
And I think the sanctioned psychers is very similar to how war bosses treat their weird boys,
Yeah.
and the fact that, hey, you know, you're dangerous, so stay over there, but we're gonna need you at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That
closer in more ways we realize.
Yeah.
Look at that.
closer than we are farther apart with my
Steph-
green boys.
It's definitely true.
okay. Okay.
Pulling
Do
out
you want
for
to
the
read
boys.
some Tyranids stuff, Ian?
Sure. Yeah,
Yes.
Tyranids are cool because like every single organism within the Tyranid race is somehow psychic, similar, I suppose, to the orcs.
Yeah.
And this all contributes to like this amalgamated consciousness known as the hive mind, where
Yeah.
they all speak to each other psychically. Because they can't talk, obviously. And since the Tyranid race is all talking to itself at the same time psychically, it makes it incredibly difficult for other psychers to be around them, like within a planetary radius.
Sure.
Sometimes.
There's so much chatter
Like
just
massive-
happening on a
Even, like,
psychic level.
Even solar
Within the
system.
system, yeah.
System, yeah.
Like
What's it
and-
called? It's like Sounds of the Warp or
The
something.
Shadow of
Shadow
the
Warp.
Warp.
That's it. Yeah.
And they like some of the high fleets actually even use this like frequency denial as a war tactic. Like Leviathan is coming at Ultramar's system from the top and bottom, and the Shadow of the Warp is between the two talking, and it's like canceling out. You know,
Just
it's
wild.
so fucking
Yeah.
cool.
The
That's
crazy
wild.
thing it cancels out is communication.
Right.
Because
So-
astropaths is the way that normal humanity gets their messages across. They don't use the internet or messages like that.
Yeah.
They relay things psychically.
Through the warp.
Yeah, that, you know, we have a Mayday emergency. Send an astropath thing.
Yeah.
But if there's no if there's a shadow in the warp, you're cutting off all communication from this planet.
You just have to
Yeah.
get out. I mean, you're
Yeah.
fucked, right? You got no support. People can't get to you. Can't get to them. It's
And it's something that comes on kind of gradually too, right? It just
Yeah.
kind of, it's like, oh, it's kind of fuzzy in the warp today.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Chalk it up to the chaos gods being weird, but then the next day, like, I can't talk to the planet next to me, and then it's completely shut off. Like,
and then
you're
if you
just,
try and do it, you're gonna go insane and
and-
kill
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
and then you just
Yeah.
blow up.
Yeah.
so foreboding. The
Yeah.
slow crawl into it. You know, it's awesome. Tyranids
Yeah.
are sick.
But each Tyranid is contributing its voice into this psychic communication.
Yeah.
Right? So
The Tyranid song.
Yeah.
But beyond the main use of using psychic powers for communication, Tyranids are also capable of using powers offensively as well.
Oh, yeah,
It's more rare, but
But they'll have, like, specific breeds of
Yeah.
organism that are like, you're the brain bug, you know, like you go over there and then, you know, statically discharge into a knight and
Yeah.
annihilate it.
Sure.
So
Exactly.
that's a weird example of engineering a creature who is
Oh, sure,
able
yeah.
to
Oh.
manipulate warp energy, and they do
Yeah.
it with 100% effectiveness.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess.
they're not going to create
interesting.
like a weird what are the Psyker ones called? Malanthropes?
Zoanthropes.
Zoanthropes. They're not going to create zoanthropes that aren't psychically capable.
That's its only purpose.
Yeah, so they can create it 100% every time, and that's another indication. It's another example of genetically manipulating psychic ability.
It might be unique to the Tyranids, but who knows? But
Well, yeah,
there's a precedent there. Yeah.
We see these things happen, but we just have no idea how to replicate them.
Yeah.
Right? So we know there are rules that we can witness. We just have no idea how to write these rules down.
It makes you think that it is somehow linked to genetics, though, right?
Yeah,
Because they're not doing it
something
spiritually, you know. It's not spirituality for
Right,
them.
like
It's
they're
just fucking,
physically making a different
Yeah.
organism that is capable of more psychically.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to think about.
Yeah, I
maybe,
love it.
maybe they have the most control of the warp and the psychic energies, because they have the ability to kind of breed it, when no one else can specifically breed it and successfully do it every time.
Say more, it's
I
gonna
agree.
explode Eric's head. Say more, a little more.
Maybe Tyranids are the most threatening race of warp energy, and the biggest threat in the galaxy.
Well, wait a
Yeah,
second,
probably the
because
biggest threat in the galaxy. Like probably nothing else competes with that.
There's not much that competes.
Have you sons of bitches ever heard of the orcs?
oh, not the Necron. Oh,
What are the Necron?
oh, son of a bitch. Well, I'll pull up a slide here so you can see what a Necron is. Boom.
You guys. All right, the Necron. Well, they're not psychic. They're not. They're not a threat. You know?
That's easy.
No.
Next.
But they aren't. Necron. no. Necron are not.
They're a
psychic.
threat, but they're not psychic.
Necron,
They're the biggest threat.
Necron have a science. They don't believe in magic.
Yeah.
And in that because they can't touch it either. So.
Yeah. They might have had psychic powers when they were flesh and blood, but as soon as they became true Necron and not Necron Tur, no more psychic abilities.
Do you think the higher chances are that they did or they didn't have the ability
I
to?
couldn't even. Who knows? There's.
Yeah, but yeah, we have no idea.
Yeah.
If they did have some ability to manipulate the warp, they gave that up 60 million years ago.
Because once again, like, you can be a psyker and all you do is just roll sixes, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you have no idea that what you're doing
Exactly.
is manipulating warp energy.
I would say they probably did have psychers, just not powerful level ones, you know, or even aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Impossible to know.
Impossible to know for sure.
But even though they can't really engage with people on that other races in that psychic level, they're such masters of science that they don't really need it. They can manipulate reality just using physics.
Yeah.
You know, and using science and laws that they are, you know, can contain and manipulate. So they don't really need magic.
Yeah, they like everybody else has magic. Their technology is magic.
Pretty much.
Which
Like,
is-
It's
they
so
have
beyond
some-
comprehension.
Indistinguishable.
that
Like it's cool because that's the far advanced, the most advanced fucking technology that exists, and so it for all intents and purposes is the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Without
Very
any
cool.
of the dangers.
Yeah, true.
Of manipulating warp energy.
Control as well.
So it's only better in my opinion.
I was about to say it's an argument for superiority.
Everything about Necron is only
Well,
what can they?
not everything.
How are they restricted? What could they do that they could do better if they did have psychic abilities?
Honestly, anything that I can think of like a Necron can just do. But even in the sometimes where their technology might come up short, then they just pull out these beings called Catan, and these beings can manipulate reality at will. So they don't even follow. They don't have to build a
they're
gun.
breaking those laws.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. They're breaking laws, but they're not using warp energy to do it. They're just manipulating reality. So even if there's science, you think, oh, there's a limit to what they can do. There really isn't, because the Catan can do anything that they want.
Very cool.
Yeah. So Necron.
fun.
The more
Not
you
a
know.
threat.
The biggest threat in the galaxy.
Total muggles.
Well, next is the Tau, which you might as well not even read after reading the Necron, because they
Tau?
also don't have psychic powers, period.
Moving on.
No technology indistinguishable from psychic powers. So
In fact, their technology makes the most sense, even. So, beyond bolters.
Yeah. So even though the Tau, they don't have psychic powers themselves, they do employ, you know, who knows how many alien races that do. Like, for example, the Nikasar
Yeah.
are incredible psychers, and they use the warp to travel and whatever. They're really powerful, like in that sense.
Yeah.
Really good navigators of space. They also have Kroot, who they eat things and then they absorb DNA. So if you got a Kroot who eats Eldar a lot, that crew will then develop psychic powers. So even though the Tau Empire or the Tau themselves don't have it, they still have creatures or defenses that can help them in that way.
Yeah, they have allies that can do it, but it just doesn't have a lasting effect on their empire itself.
Yeah.
Right.
They have the capacity to interact with these races that are psychic, and that could offer them knowledge
Yeah.
of, warp manipulation and energy, but for some reason they just haven't grasped that straw.
Yeah.
And you can come up, I think, with some decently good reasons as to why they haven't, but unfortunately, until they do, they're like every other race stuck to a couple star systems.
Yeah, it feels like an impediment. Whereas the Necrons, it doesn't,
It
because they have a
yeah,
reason. But for
exactly.
these guys, it's like, no, you need to catch up. Like,
That's
yeah.
exactly what it is.
and it's-
Put the Tau at the moon technologically. I hate when people say that. No, you're an idiot.
That's what I mean. We literally just read the Necron
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
and it was like, well, I don't know if they are. I mean,
Yeah. Like Tau are like
Yeah,
us in 200 years. You know.
yeah, that's,
probably pretty close.
You know.
honestly.
the thing that's
Spacefaring, but
compelling
not
about
really.
Tau is that they've advanced so quickly for how old they are. Not
Correct.
that they're any more technically.
I was gonna
advanced.
say
So in
battle
truthfulness-
suits, but
Sure,
in
that's cool too.
truthfulness-
But
that's cool too.
They haven't really advanced that fast. Like we
Sure.
are on our history currently, we're on a pretty similar
wait,
projection.
we're gonna have battle suits.
Oh yeah.
What, yeah,
Yes.
2023.
Have you been
Yes,
to Japan?
2023.
Yeah, so like obviously it's not the same, and maybe it's a little
Talking
faster.
dirty
but
to me.
it feels like that's a lot of thing people hold on to is the fact no, it was so fast,
Yeah.
but it really wasn't.
Still
It's,
took 'em
it's-
thousands
yeah,
of
it's
years.
thousands
Yeah,
of years,
right.
and we're on the moon. We're about to send people to Mars, right? Like we're not that
not blue.
far off.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
funny.
we're not blue. How did that's
yeah,
the
we don't
major
have
difference.
hooves
That's
and four
true.
Right.
fingers.
Yeah.
3 fingers?
Three.
4.
Can you count?
Almost every
Do
argument
thumbs
that
count as fingers? Interesting. Who knows? Who fucking knows?
I don't know. But yeah,
yeah,
it's a little.
it's hard to argue for the
It's
Tau a
not
lot of
even
the time.
That, yeah, their shtick isn't even that they're fast because they're not.
Right.
So,
Like they were fast enough for the Imperium to be like, that's potentially problematic, but then again, like not that much of a big deal because the Imperium could very well just roll up and obliterate the Tau Empire
Absolutely.
whenever they wanted if
Yeah.
they actually wanted to. So
You know what? Like
yeah,
an,
it's a little frustrating.
The Tau
a
are
cool
just
ending
chilling.
I'd love for the Tau is they just 100% become completely corrupted by chaos
Oh,
and just
interesting.
become full evil and use all
The
the
greater
resources-
bad.
Well, they just go like all the technology that currently exists, but they're also tapping into warp energy and being super like indulgent and like becoming powerful and stuff like that. Just
Like
totally chaos
word bearer
converted.
level.
Yeah, honestly,
Where
yeah.
everything they do is just covered in ritual and scroll, and they're just imbuing everything they can with
Well,
psychic.
Chaos battle suits.
I mean, I'm definitely
I
for
think
that.
you could do something like that without it being like corrupted by chaos, where
Sure.
like the ethereal cast is able to control the Tau because they had psychic abilities.
right. Sure. Okay.
And then like that gets unchained or something,
Right.
and that's what accelerates them to a galactic scale because they finally like allow themselves to advance. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Lots of people do think that the ethereals are actually psychers,
Right.
but
yeah, that's a big theory.
no
right?
evidence.
no evidence.
Yeah, again,
Speculation,
everything. Yeah, it's just speculative.
unfortunately. Yeah. But it's cool. I like the mystery
one-
behind
yeah.
it. The mystery is really, really, it's fun.
Again, Crocodile Dundee crew man has to come by and just like make a
Crocodile Crew D.
yeah, he's got to shore something up with the crocodile
Now that's a good
psychers.
inquisitorial agent for the Discord contest.
Right.
Hey.
Crocodile hunter.
Crocodile.
Crocodile
Crocodile.
Dundee, and he's just, I mean, yeah, let's ride a
Crocodile Dundee.
massive portal gator and send him to Ultramar.
I love it.
Just riding it.
We're really trying to write something cool for the Tau over here.
No kidding.
We're getting
taking a
fucking
stretch.
desperate here.
Stretch. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that kind of covers the main factions that we play on the tabletop that the majority of stories have been written about. Everyone treats their psychers differently.
Sure.
Everyone has a different place in their society. Some races don't have any at all in theirs, and some are only devoted to people with it. So each one is going to be different, which is nice.
Sure.
Everyone isn't seen the same.
And even the way each one even uses the warp is different. Like the way orcs use it is very different than the way humanity uses it and stuff like that.
Yeah, they view the warp differently. They have different philosophies about warp energy, and it all kind of just comes down to how your race sees you and then how your planet. Anyways, you can go down to the microcosm, but there's no need to.
And I guess the other like aside with this is that there's also like the chaos races who tap into the warp without having to be inhibited by like those restraints of the Eldar, like the astringent things that the Imperium has to regiment you into a rank. Chaos races just tap into the warp and siphon it all the way.
They all risk or reward. We didn't cover that. Like it's not.
Well, it's like chaos isn't a race. Because anything, humanity is chaos.
Yes.
Eldar are chaos.
Right.
You know, orcs, everyone who lives
has the potential to fall to chaos.
Exactly.
Right.
And chaos, it removes like a lot of the stigma about being a warp, but it doesn't really remove the danger. Like it can.
It's just that they care a lot less because they are just like puppets of like a greater thing at that point.
Yeah, I think you lose a lot of your inhibitions if you're trying to go down the path of chaos, because you can't have inhibitions if you truly want to gain power. You have to be able to do a lot of things that you are not able to do earlier.
You're all in. You're all in.
Exactly.
Sure, you can shoot lightning from your eyes, but you have 6 arms coming out of the side of you.
And you had to sacrifice an entire city in order to get that power, right?
Throw your friend off a cliff.
Exactly.
Throw your friend's friend off a cliff.
Because everything has a price.
Kill your cousin.
You know?
Oh my God, Dylan.
It could have gone down.
And then the further you go down, the less you care. Like if you're a demonette just like harnessing the warp or something, it's like you don't have any reason to not go all the way.
Well, when we were kind of putting this together, we kind of got lost a little bit on the track of, are demons psychers? Is a bloodletter an active psyker being, you know?
Bad example, because Korn doesn't fuck with
You know what is a demonette? An active psyker. You know, they're psychic beings.
I don't know, is a Termagon a psycho? It has psychic affiliation because it communicates.
I think you could categorize.
Thing. Like they came from the warp. They obviously have warp energy or warp connection in some way.
They're made of warp energy.
Psychic being and psyker maybe not the same thing. Though.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think you have to be. Like, I don't think a demonette is actively manipulating warp energies 24/7. I do think there's an aspect of being a demon where you have to focus to ground yourself in reality.
Yeah.
And if you categorize that as a warp power, you know, you have to manifest your own body into reality. Then I would say you're a psyker. But if being a demonette required and staying in reality is nothing more than just chopping up bodies, I would say you're probably not a psyker until you're actively trying to manipulate realities. So I think you could be either or, really.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Using the warp as a tool, I think, is a distinguishing factor. Like, you have the ability to control it and manipulate it in that sense.
And
as opposed to it just going through you and fucking having a dance. Like, it's not.
But it's almost like the gods like grant you access at a certain point of like that ascension, right?
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
you know, depending on who you're with too, right? Because like a demonette or a nurgling can't harvest the warp, but then like blue horrors can, like they can psychically attune and they can do things. Even though they're like a lesser demon. So just depends on who you're under, I guess, too.
Absolutely, So many invariables and invariables?
Variables?
No.
Not an inverted variable.
Invariables.
Okay. Sure.
I love
Irregardless of whether that's a real word or not.
Irregardless.
Wow.
I just love the other side of the spectrum here. We've just got, it's the far extreme where they're just all in on the chaos evilness and just gonna, hey, give us all the warpiness you can, and this is the product you get, and that's chaos, which is sick.
Yeah, for sure. But even though those are the main factions that we listed, there are innumerable creatures, life forms out there that can manipulate warp energy, and any way that you can think of to manipulate or to interact with, it can exist in 40K, which is really cool, because you can make it as subtle and as tiny as you want, or where every one of them walks the planet and they're a god, you know, manipulating life and death that touches. So it's very cool, especially for building races that you don't see. because it's just
And
another
if you're building
aspect.
a race, go listen to Lorehammer Let's Talk. I hear they're doing a thing where you
Yeah,
build
but
your own race.
It's a question that I think.
Patreon.com/let's talk.
All right, so we're back to point 3. Let's talk Lorehammer.
I think if you're world building
Yeah.
in 40K,
Yeah.
like that's a question you have to ask:
Sure.
is how does my race interact with the warp?
Yeah,
in
I
the
agree.
same way of like,
Yep.
what's my level of technology?
Sure.
What's my stance of other
Yeah.
alien races? Where do I fit in my philosophies? How do I fit with warp?
Yeah,
Like,
it's not compulsory. Like it's not. It's an important aspect that you should maybe consider. But there's a million races obviously that go without it. Like
no, but that's fine. But then
Right,
you
sure.
would say my race doesn't know anything.
sure, okay, it's on you to
When you're going
Yeah.
through the checklist, it's got
Yeah.
to be on there somewhere.
I
Yeah,
do think
fair
so.
enough.
Even it's totally okay to have a
Yeah.
race that doesn't interact with it.
Yeah.
Like
But
Eric explained earlier, you're either a potato or you're not a potato.
everything in the entire galaxy is either a potato or not a potato.
What about
So the same
universe?
applies to the psychic
The
world.
universe is so big, man.
So
but I'm
big.
probably correct
Okay.
in saying that in the universe, everything is either a potato or not.
Perfect. I like it.
If you crossbreed a potato and a yam, is it not still
A Yamato?
a potato?
Then
And
it's,
also not a potato?
well, no, then it would be a Yamato,
Yeah.
not a potato.
But is it in a third category at that point?
You know what? I'm not a potato scientist. A
claim
potato
to be.
a potaintist
Potatist?
as they claim. I don't have to go back to my source
Okay.
and ask
That'll be the next episode.
your potato friends.
my potaintist.
Lorehammer bonus episode.
Joining us
We're
this
Oh, what?
We're just sitting here eating potatoes, talking about potatoes.
joining us is renowned potaintist Sam. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Pleasure to be here.
Can you pass the salt?
Wow. Okay, back to Psykers.
Psykers. I was just reading ahead. This is actually fucking awesome because
Yeah.
I've heard about in different laws and books and stuff like the different ranks of Psykers. But I didn't realize the system that was in place in order to rank him. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So it's an Imperium designation. So it might not fit everything that exists in the galaxy because this is just Imperium trying to, codify everything into a list.
And it's really even classifying their own race. Like they're not worried. This doesn't necessarily classify Eldar. Like,
Absolutely,
That's,
yeah.
that's not the goal.
Yeah,
of
they're
this,
not going to
but,
look at a
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
a
it's just a
traitor
Xeno.
legion.
This is
and-
what an Inquisitor will look at to see what to do with that Psyker.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's called the assignment, and they measure and record the psionic activity and power level of psychic individuals through a rating system called the assignment. It's comprised of a 24-point scale. It simplifies the comparison of psychers to aid Imperial authorities in recognizing possible threats.
Perfect.
Cool.
Is there an administratum, organization,
It does this.
yeah, that assigns?
Who administers this? Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't
You
see
sit,
anything.
sit in a room and conduct an interview with a guy, and you're like, oh, he's taking 19 of the 24 boxes. This guy might be a problem.
So the assignment scale doesn't only include psychers, but it also includes blanks or anti-psychers.
That's
Cool.
Yeah, so it's almost like there's a neutral area in the middle or at some point, and
Mm-hmm.
then on one side is your growth of psychers, and on the other is your anti-psycher.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of cool.
While this episode isn't about blanks, if you don't know what they are, we will do you a favor and tell you. For the low price
So
of
welcome to our
$1.
episode 78 blanks.
Yes. So blanks possess no presence in the warp, and a blank's brain actually actively blots out warp activity, which disrupts psychic phenomenon in the vicinity.
Anemone.
Phenomenon.
Psychic phenomenon.
In their vicinity and renders them immune to psychic powers. So that's kind of what a blank is. They're
It's a void. It's a
Yeah,
void
yeah.
of warp energy that it just can't penetrate and doesn't work.
What's
Yeah.
an anti-psyker then?
A psycher? Oh, sorry, an
Anti-psyker.
anti-psycher.
Yeah,
that's
that's a blank.
That would be a blank.
Same thing. Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah,
those were
yeah.
different
An
things.
anti-psycher isn't a real thing. I just said that out loud.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't remember that word. That's not a word I'm familiar
I just
with.
want to reintroduce the hilarious idea of putting a blank every square, square kilometer in the
Classic.
entire universe
Mark theory.
so that it cancels out chaos.
It's Marxism is what that
Yeah,
is.
yeah. It's-
If you subscribe to that ideology.
Just put a blank every square kilometer throughout
Round
the
up all
entire
the blanks.
universe,
Simple.
and then you win, right?
You win. Okay, so let's go through the assignment, starting with I don't know, ascending order, I guess.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's rho or pi, and this is no manifestation of psychic talent, which is the majority of humanity.
Yeah.
Where just people that have no ability to interact and manipulate warp energy at all.
Tick. Tick.
that one.
You can put your pen away. You're not
All right,
gonna need
fuck.
it.
All right, damn it.
Yeah.
I was hoping to get a little
That's all of
higher.
us,
No.
and that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think you can put that pen away.
You can lie to them, but you can't lie to us. So the next is Omicron or Psi, Nu, Mu, Lambda, Kappa.
Man.
That's a lot of good
So
names.
I don't know if these are fraternities
Yeah, they're starting to
or
Rats.
or assignments. So at this level, you are unconscious and minor level of psionic brain activity. Such low levels of talent only manifest in high stress experiences and remain beyond the control of the individual. Phenomena are commonly explained as good luck or fluke occurrences. So this is like your classic no control over it, but things just seem to happen around them that are kind of tough to explain.
Yeah, it's Harry Potter growing up, and he's like, things are happening. He's unexplainable before he gets the letter, and
Yeah, the glass disappears.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And the snake comes out, and then he
Then
should've
you're a
killed-
psyker, Harry.
You're a psyker.
Yeah.
Should have killed the snake all along there. Jeez, sorry.
Goddamn.
It's about wizards, man.
Who wants to take the next one?
Iota Theta Eta. Iota Theta Eta. I like these names. Conscious and moderate level of psionic talent. As the individual is able to control abilities with effort, subjects of iota level and higher are true psychers, and under the jurisdiction of the Inquisition and the Adeptus Astra Telepathica.
Cool.
It's crazy. There's quite a jump between I am a fluke psyker and
Yeah.
moderate and conscious ability.
Well, I think that's why there's so many different like Omicron, Xi,
Yeah.
Nu, Mu, Lambda,
I think it
Kappa.
jumps- it jumps
so
quite
there's
high
like
every time,
there's
yeah.
like 5 sections of the second level
Exactly.
of psyching. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That makes sense.
each jump is actually quite significant. Like it gets crazy pretty quick, I think.
Yeah.
So next one we got Zeta.
Zeta?
No, Zeta.
Is it Zeta?
Well, we're Canadian, so it's
Oh, Zeta. Yeah,
Zed.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You remember Meta?
Thanks, bud. Eh? Sorry.
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 Oh, I'm sorry. Buddy.
Please, Mark. Go ahead, eh?
Zeta, Epsilon. Very high level of mental psychic activity. Manifesting early, these levels of talent and those above require an immediate attention of imperial authorities and represent a true security threat. So
What's
these-
crazy? We're only on point 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when you become a delta or gamma psyker, gamer, gamer alert! This guy's a gamer.
Get him! Lock him up! He's too dangerous!
Delta gamer. A delta or a gamma level psyker occurring in approximately 1 per billion human births. Delta and gamma level psychers exhibit extreme levels of psionic ability. Unless discovered quickly, death or possession are common results of the untrained mind being unable to handle this level of mental energy.
Shit.
So
That's
this is our 1 per billion.
Yeah.
Right.
These are
Yeah.
This isn't even the highest level.
yeah. Because next we
kinda
have
cool.
beta alpha.
I
Which
like that
is,
those are in the same category.
one is clearly beta.
They're in the same frat together, but
Sure, yeah.
but like
but alpha gets the nice rooms.
yeah.
So exceedingly rare and dangerous. Mainstream Medicae Imperialis discussion agrees that current human beings do not possess the necessary evolutionary development to contain beta and alpha levels of psionic talent. As such, the great majority of those discovered at this assignment rating usually suffer from mental instability. So it's just, you can't control it.
Sure.
It just drives you absolutely bonkers, just this amount of psychic energy that can course through your bodies.
So is that already to say that like famous like librarians and things wouldn't even be like at the beta or alpha level?
These are the ones that are in Eisenhorn that escaped, right? Like in the parade scene, and then they cause havoc to everything.
I don't know exactly. I
okay.
think anything like beta or alpha, they say they usually suffer from instability, and the necessary evolutionary development doesn't exist for humans.
There'd
But
be-
that
there'd be
doesn't
exceptions,
necessarily mean
yeah.
space
Oh,
marines,
Yeah,
that's
there'd be
true.
exceptions
Okay,
for
I
sure.
got you.
right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So
Space Marines, so
usual,
it's a different
yeah,
ball
for
game.
sure,
they
for
usually have
yeah.
mental instability,
Yeah.
right? So there might be a human that's strong enough to survive the onslaught of the warp, but
Yeah.
chances are higher if you're a space marine who's indoctrinated,
Yes,
psycho-conditioned.
Yeah, you might even catch one from age 1, and
But-
you're able to train him from age 1, and then it's
Yeah.
he doesn't suffer from mental issues.
But like Joe Schmo, who's summoning dragons or whatever, is he's got like a dual
which
personality.
is a real psychic power. By
Yeah,
the way.
yeah,
yeah.
Psionic dragon, made out of lightning.
Yeah.
Ride the dragon.
Yeah.
And then the last one.
Alpha Plus, the best of them all. In the rarest of all cases, the 24-point scale of the assignment does not adequately characterize a being of indescribable ability. Such individuals, for all intents and purposes, pass beyond the scale entirely. These subjects are known as Alpha Plus Psykers. Uncontained, Alpha Plus Psykers
What is this
represent
voice?
an immediate and catastrophic threat to the Imperium.
Oh wow.
In theory, there is nothing that a trained Alpha Plus Psyker cannot accomplish through force of will. From snapping a Titan in half to summoning a legion of greater demons.
See, dragons.
Representing such a great danger, the Inquisition usually executes Alpha Plus Psykers on sight.
Yeah.
Unless the possibility for capture is nearly assured.
We're nearly assured we can capture
We
this.
can probably get it. Should we give it a go?
The entire planet is ripped ripped asunder.
Oh well, that kind of took care of itself then.
Well,
If
you know
the
what?
planet's gone.
We nearly had it.
We should have waited for.
So it's the Emperor,
Assured.
right?
Yeah, that would be the Emperor.
Yeah.
Beta
But
Alpha
it's probably
Psykers.
Malkador as well. Like Malkador was
Yeah, he's
amazing. It's
powerful.
definitely Magnus.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like-
There's gonna be more than one. It can't. Yeah.
There will
I
be
say there's
people
more
who
than
are
one.
categorized
Because they're
as
not
that.
describing like things that we don't think are impossible. Like someone is more than capable of summoning a legion of greater demons.
Exactly.
Right? Like
yeah.
the Emperor definitely could.
Yeah,
But
so-
there are also probably many other things that could do this. It's
Yeah.
just very rare.
Delta Gamma happens 1 per billion, so then maybe Beta Alpha is 1 per trillion, which is still small potato numbers in 40K.
Yeah.
So then Alpha Plus is 1 per. I don't even know what's after a trillion. Zillion?
Quadrillion?
Quadrillion? Which is
Is
still.
that a real number?
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Thanks, man.
I've never
Come on.
counted past 10.
Yeah, I can't count past 18. I don't have enough
Maybe
fingers
it's like
and toes.
one in a
Do you
Google
ever
Plex
whip out your
at
penis
that
and
point.
count that to just get your numbers up, or what?
No.
Get that up to 19?
I don't need to
instead
be
of 18?
reminded of that failure in my life.
Okay.
Can you, like,
Channel
count
some
and shit?
psychic energy into it or something.
I can't.
If I was more psychically attuned, I could count.
I'm a little bro. But yeah, these are.
Yeah, there'd be like 5 total, like 5 people.
These are
Yeah,
kill
these
on
like-
sight.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't understand
fucking
this
awesome.
whole. Oh, unless the possibility is nearly assured.
Like,
Like,
what-
you cannot.
What's
capture
the
these.
precedent then? Like, when has that ever happened where they have assured Alpha Plus captured one?
I don't even know.
Right.
Like, so this assignment thing, it's really cool information, but never once have I seen it come up in any publication that
Yeah.
I've ever read.
Yeah, like we don't know that Chief Librarian Tigurius. We don't know where he.
Yeah,
falls
what's
on
his
the scale.
actual rating?
Right.
Like he literally survived the talk or being whatever cooped up with the hive mind for a heartbeat. So
Yeah.
like, how powerful is that? You know,
So yeah, like Eric said, it really doesn't come up actually ever.
you just do your best guess. I think
Yeah. It's
using
cool,
this
bud.
information.
And like all things with the warp too, it's not a perfect system. So
Is there a non-Imperium thing that would be an Alpha Plus Psycho?
I'm looking it up and I can't find
Oh,
it.
yeah,
maybe like
interesting, yeah.
Eldrad of the Eldar. He's a very powerful psyker.
Cool.
Right, we're talking like super famous named characters that are
Yeah.
like capable of
Can do
Yeah.
magic.
planetary
yeah, I would
Yeah.
say Magnus
battle
is
shifting.
Yeah, Magnus. for
Alpha
sure.
Plus,
Yeah.
maybe a couple other of the demon primarchs like
Yeah.
Mortarion. He's not even really a psyker.
I
he just
know.
has psychic
Yeah.
abilities,
Yeah.
like ridiculously powerful for sure.
Sure.
But
In a different
he's
way.
not Magnus.
Yeah.
What's the strongest psychic ability you've ever discovered or heard of in anything? Like, what's the biggest showing of strength psychically you've seen
Just
or
the
heard
ability to feel good.
Oh my god,
of?
shut up.
You know, just
Well, in the grimdark future, you know, that's actually a pretty big superpower.
Yeah, whoa, he's an Alpha Plus
One day
psychic.
he was
He's completely content with existence in the Imperium. Kill him on sight.
He cannot be allowed to exist.
Wait, no, we might be able to capture him, just maybe.
Quick, subject his entire family.
Oh my god.
I'm just trying to think of the most like fucking Super Saiyan shit, right? Like it's I don't know. Has anyone blown up a planet like cyclically? Has that happened?
Malkador put a planet into the warp
That's pretty cool.
Just like
for 100. No,
Flicks it.
10
Yeah.
years? I can't remember.
like he time locked a planet in the warp for
no,
100 years.
It went in the warp, and because it was Titan that he did it to.
Yeah.
And when it came out, an entire chapter was ready. So, but he
Right.
didn't protect it from the warp. He had lots of help from technology.
Yeah.
But he
Still
still
to,
had
like-
to do it himself.
Yeah.
Is put
That's
this into
pretty-
the warp. And that's a pretty
Pretty
big
Chad move
That's
right
a
there.
pretty big energy.
Alpha, you might even say.
But he ain't no beta.
Maybe even Alpha Plus.
It's a bit of
Kill on sight. Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger ones that I
Sure.
can think of. Magnus was in the Ritual of the Damned. He was performing a ceremony that was galaxy wide.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how'd that work?
Well,
Lots of
all
story
it takes is
development or
one or
what?
two Grey Knights and a couple Dark
Son of a
Angels.
bitch,
And
It's really hard to like quantify those things though, right? Like even like the Doom of Malantai was like the Tyranid organism that like completely
Like
sucked
on a Craft World or
sucked
something.
he sucked a craft world dry just by like psionically draining their souls.
Oh, jeez.
Like and then disappeared.
Yeah, that's a good
and he's
example.
never
Like, that's
he's
super
gone. Like,
powerful.
that's pretty fucking crazy.
Okay.
That's a kill on sight.
It's impressive. Yeah. You're definitely a threat.
That's
to
a
that.
No, we
squash.
can capture it.
Take your sandal and
Where we can capture it.
get that bug out of here.
Get this beat of shit under wraps.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So that's the positive psionic levels. Now we'll go into the negative psionic
It
levels,
didn't
and once
sound
again,
too positive to me. I mean,
It is.
sound pretty negative.
It is so
overall.
funny to me that the first negative level is called Sigma or Tau.
yeah, yeah, psionically dense individuals
Sounds about right.
who are oblivious to the warps, fluctuations, and manifestations of psychic talent.
Yeah. So that I would say is how they categorize Tau.
Sure.
Or entire populations where, they do a sweep of a planet of 6 billion people and they found not even a shred of psychic ability.
Right.
They would say this entire population is Sigma or Tau,
Wildlife.
Yeah, absolutely. You could categorize
they're
that.
oblivious to the warp fluctuations and manifest. They just
Absolutely.
don't know.
Yeah.
Cattle,
Yes, sir.
like the Tau.
Little fish boys.
Flies.
they're like cows.
Ants. Yeah, fish.
Yeah, they have the hooves.
Yeah.
Fish with hooves.
You guys are gonna make
Same
me
thing.
flip a table. Epsilon pi chi psi.
Stop making up words.
So these are subjects with varying degrees of immunity to psyker powers. So, maybe if your luck always worked against this guy, it wouldn't work because he's actively canceling out your thing. Or if you had the ability to read energies, like you just can't read them for some reason when this guy's in the room or who knows. But it's going to start with very minimal effects and work all the way up to a decent amount, actually, just within those four
Where somebody's
categories.
trying to cast a lightning bolt at you and you're like, well, no. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So is that a blank or is that
Yeah,
not
all
a,
of these are technically blanks.
everything past being a psychically dense guy? You're a blank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we know that there's different power levels
Of
of
that as well.
blanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't actually know that. I thought it would just be binary. I thought either you're immune to the warp or you're not, kind of thing.
No,
Or it's a
blanks
psychic
are not
ability.
potatoes, unfortunately. So it's
Well,
not.
yeah, exactly. They're not potatoes.
Oh, God.
So they come into the category of,
Of not potatoes.
Not potato.
not potato.
Oh,
It's pretty, guys. The science is pretty cut and dry.
Again,
You're,
it's
you're
pretty
either
binary.
a psycho or not a potato, okay? It's one of the two.
So Omega.
So usually referred to as untouchables, pariahs, or blanks. These individuals are so inert in the warp as to actually exhibit negative psychic influence upon others. So primarily manifested as a small region of blankness surrounding the individual, it is impossible for psychic powers or warp creatures to penetrate this space. Those at an omega level of psi negativity can easily be distinguished by others, as empirical science has shown the dead area surrounding the subject interferes with natural electrical mental functions. This often results in irrational fear and loathing of the individual for normal humans.
Yeah.
For psychers, however, omega level persons are physically and mentally painful to be near.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, just like how I feel
Oh,
being in this room.
you can leave.
You guys blanks? Because
Eric's
a psychic
Eric's a
energy.
pariah. Absolutely.
Please, Necron Overlord.
Why can't
Yeah,
I
yeah,
penetrate
exactly.
you? I've tried many ways, psychic and mentally, but
Blanks,
Try
pariahs,
physically next
these
time.
things,
Yeah.
they're
fuck it up.
even themselves are kind of not fully true, because like even if you are a blank and even if you have the ability to stop psychic powers, there are examples of that being overloaded with sufficient psychic power behind it. So we have no idea if people can turn their powers off or if it becomes like a battle between
There's like a scale
wills.
of positive and negative, right? That like
Yeah.
kind of meet each
But
other at a certain level.
A lot of I think people assume that a pariah is just instant dead space, and it doesn't matter what tries to happen in that space, you know, the pariah will instantly block it. But I don't think that's true. Like,
It's not like me as a pariah can like, you know,
Contend
Malkador
with-
is still gonna kill me
yes,
probably.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I there's definitely still a power scale
Yep.
within the blankness and pariah abilities.
You're blank in it, but it's how blank are you? You know?
Yeah,
It's like-
exactly.
yeah.
So there's some stories of some Sisters of Silence going by the Emperor and like removing his disguise, and then there's other times where he's with Sisters of Silence and he isn't affected in that way, right?
Yeah.
So another thing is in the Siege of Terra, when Angron, who's a full demon at this point, is assaulting the Imperial Palace, he can't break through the Emperor's psychic wall. But it seems very much that they imply that, oh, it's because it's the Emperor who's actually creating this barrier. So if
Right.
something else were to try and do it, you know, it wouldn't actually affect them to this degree. So I more see the blanks as having also a power scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's one final category. It's called Omega Minus, and on Lexicanum and all resources I could check, it just gives you a link to Calexis Assassins, which are blank assassins. But to me, like, those guys would fall under just Omega. But it's
Yeah,
just
you gotta
another power
wonder.
level.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
they don't give you a nice description of what it actually is.
Well,
but
yeah.
there is one more tier.
Like not every Omega is going to be turned into a Calexis.
Sure.
But Calexis,
Yeah.
like, that ability is very like valuable to the Imperium. So they're going to snatch up everyone who they feel is powerful enough, right? Which is, they probably say, oh, if you're a minus, you're going straight to the Assassinorum.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
You know?
It's a trained blank. It's probably weaponized, and they probably have like
Oh,
enough
definitely.
training to know exactly how to use it to its full advantage.
Yeah.
And
Those are
and
the guys who you send to take care of the 1 in a quadrillion Alpha
Yeah.
Plus. Like,
Exactly.
get the
Yeah.
Calexis. Like,
Yeah.
take
When-
care of it.
the Alpha Plus is negated by the Omega Minus. The Omega Minus is a ring to it.
Damn.
It kind of
Alpha
feels,
to Omega,
Yeah, I
plus
wanna
to
see-
minus.
I want to see that battle because you know if
be
the
cool.
scale goes in their favor of the Alpha high enough, you know they should win out, or
Sure.
vice versa. So it's
Exactly.
all about how much do you bring
Now,
to the table.
it sounds like it'd be a cool battle. But when you really think about it,
They would both just
neither
be like,
have power, so they just go slap fight each other.
Yeah. That's
No,
why
what
they
if-
give the Calexis
What if
a
it's a
gun.
battle of wills?
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
them is
Exactly.
trying to
Yeah.
push
yeah.
their reality on the other person, and they're just trying to
Exactly.
fight back.
No,
There's
yeah.
one gun in the middle
That's
of the
cool.
table, and either the guy picks it up and shoots himself, or he doesn't, and that determines who actually won the fight, right?
There you go.
But yeah, that's the assignment. So they have their positive psionic levels and their negative psionic levels, and they kind of just have decent descriptions for the early ones, and at some point they're just like, we have no idea, so it's powerful,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
Because at some point, you know, they're constantly going to write more and more powerful characters, so
Sure.
it's good to leave it open-ended in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are up next we're going to talk about psychic foci, which most races use. Psychic foci are techniques or devices used by psychers to help them focus or enhance their powers, or to protect themselves. Devices can be sacred bones, carved witch staffs, blessed icons, force weapons. What's Space Marine Librarian hoods called?
Psychic hood.
Psychic hoods. Crystals, Eldar runes. You know, all
Absolutely.
these, all these things.
Yeah. The
either
copper
will-
staves of like
copper
the orcs,
staffs.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of arbitrary, it seems,
Sure.
in what things can actually be used as a psychic foci, but I think they all need to serve like an actual purpose, and then probably be psychically resonant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Would Wraithbone
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
a foci.
what determines how something is made psychically resonant? Is that
Well, Wraith.
Well, I know Wraithbone is like
Made of warp.
made
Okay,
of
so
Eldar souls.
Yeah.
the soul stones themselves.
Yeah.
I think they're just special stones that resonate with warp powers.
Sure.
Like I just in
Like,
the same way
it's
that
occurring naturally.
in the same way
Yeah.
that humans can just get the mutation for psychic powers, so can nature also mutate to resonate with some psychic
Right, but like something like a force weapon. Like what made that psychically?
technology.
Yeah, like if you read the way like Grey Knight Nemesis force weapons, it's like some
Yeah.
like psycho alloy that
Sure,
it's made
sure.
of or
So it's
whatever.
like it's a naturally occurring
Yeah.
material
Yeah.
that they're like
Well, I
kind of
don't
like.
I don't know if I would
sounds like
say
that.
it's naturally occurring. What if you just pour enough psychic energy into something?
Oh,
and
while
can
you're creating
like,
it?
It's like creating
Yeah.
a radioactive piece, but now you're creating a psychoactive.
Then you like trap
piece.
it in there with a cooling.
Yeah,
That's cool. Well, who knows?
Maybe
could
it could
be either way. Could be
yes.
both. It's probably both.
But there
realistically.
is going to be some material in there that does resonate
Yeah.
on a psychic level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in some instances, these foci can be used by the individually, or can be used by the individual attuned to it. But others, any psychic could use the foci to their benefit. So some are tied into one specific person.
And I was specifically thinking of Grey Knight
Yeah.
force weapons
Sure.
in this regard because, and that's just my example, but there's many things out there that until you attune yourself with it, you cannot operate it
Yeah.
to its potential.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Another thing, we just have our classical psychic items.
Sure.
So they're just items that are made to interact with the warp, you know, not meant to focus or do anything other than its design purpose, and anyone can use them.
Sure.
This ability is obviously very useful in many circumstances, but it is more likely to be dangerous for those beings that may interact with powers well beyond their comprehension and control. If you find something and you're positive it's tied to the warp, good chance you're gonna die.
Sure.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not. It's
Yeah.
probably not gonna give you a great harvest.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably just gonna kill you.
Warp isn't friendly, and you're probably too ignorant to know how to control
Yeah.
it properly.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah. But it also just
yeah.
means that there are things out there that non-psychers can still interact with warp in this way.
Yeah.
Like with help. So
Yeah. One interesting thing too about psychic foci and even psychic items is just like on the assignment scale, there are positive and negative psychic items. Like for example, Psybolts are negative impregnated bolt gun rounds, negative
Right.
psychic energy impregnated or whatever.
old school, I think, lore said that each Psybolt ammunition had like a piece of dust of the Emperor
Yeah,
or
something like
in
that.
it.
Like his
Fucking
waist
cool.
or something.
That's
Yeah,
sick,
and like
Yeah.
each bolt, which
Yeah.
they're giving these bolts out primarily to Grey Knights, but also
Yeah.
to other you know,
Yeah.
specialty things. And it's just like, wow, how much of the Emperor did they have?
They got a cheese grater on his feet, just like
Yeah.
Ew,
taking
yeah.
away
His
calluses.
bunions
Yeah,
are just
exactly.
give it to the Grey Knights.
Give it to the girl.
Blessed with Emperor
Yeah.
bunions.
They're like snorting it up in the back.
Yeah.
They get real psychic
Oh my-
attuned.
Yeah.
Psychic item, so it's Harry's magic wand. You know, it's
Exactly.
It's attuned to the warp.
Yeah.
Can
A lot of Harry Potter references.
look,
before-
we're
in
doing
this.
wizards, all right. And
Space wizards.
It's the wizard I know the most.
Ah.
You know, personally.
I mean, I could.
Yeah.
He is Australian.
Dylan is a famous podcaster after
Sure.
all.
Oh,
you know.
sorry. Of course.
Apologies.
Right.
Apologies.
Don't
sir.
talk about Patreons.
So next thing we're going to talk about are some of the different disciplines that the Imperium has kind of laid down.
Yeah.
You know, if you practice this specific type of warp power, they're going to say, oh, you do this. And
Yeah.
they probably have different levels of like strict like rules regarding what you're allowed to touch and what not
Yeah.
allowed to touch and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of like an imperial kind of classification again, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Because like different races will have their own completely unique ways of touching the warp.
Yeah, that's another thing. I don't know if we've fully gone into, but yeah, like every race is going to interact with the warp very differently.
Yeah.
And just a lot of the information we have is just human centric.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
take a lot of this just with understand the perspective that the information is coming to you from.
Or it
So-
can be similar, but applied in completely different ways. Like
Absolutely.
the first one here is biomancy, which is the manipulation of biological energy and processes. And I know that like that looks a lot different for an imperial person than it does for like I know that they used to classify one of the Tyranid like psychic stems as a form of biomancy as well.
Yeah.
And like it's obviously very different because you
Yeah.
know that would be like hardening their carapaces or something versus I don't know.
Yeah, like strengthening
Bolstering
your
your
bones
constitution or whatever,
Yeah,
yeah.
or
Yeah,
even
absolutely,
fortifying yourself mentally or something.
Yeah.
The
So-
priorities are different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biomancy is literally just the manipulation of biological like flesh things,
Yeah.
and it's primarily yourself is what you're manipulating with this energy, but also you have abilities like in greater ones to actually manipulate the energies of other
Sure.
beings.
Yeah.
So you can cause other people's heads to explode.
Or I could grow you an extra nose.
You could.
Just anywhere on your
Okay.
face. From a distance.
It's just like
That's truly warped,
What?
chaotic,
I'm-
unpredictable.
I'm gonna give
Sort
you a
of
chin nose.
Replace
It's
both
gonna-
ears with noses.
Yeah. You're gonna be-
you can't hear, but you can smell really
Put
good.
one central ear in the middle of your face.
Can it move and wiggle?
gonna contract your beard
Yeah,
back
it's like
into
a
your face.
disc.
It's a dick.
Like here.
I don't like
But
Yeah.
but that's using psychic energy, which is kind of crazy because it
Yeah.
just feels so biological and organic and like genetic, but it's actual, it's warp energy.
Yeah, you're breaking reality
yeah,
to
yeah.
enforce this.
That's what I thought about the Tyranids too, right? Because that's what they're doing when they're making those weird organisms.
Yeah,
Essentially,
Like
absolutely.
a form of biomancy.
It's a both.
Sure.
Another one we have is divination. So this practice focuses on the future and how to correctly alter it. The strength of this power can vary like super a lot. With some able to read the future. Well, no, it's like
Super a lot. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Some of these it feels like the
unpredictable.
power is the power, but this one it's like, oh, can
Maybe.
you cast like predict whether this coin is going to flip heads or tails, or can you predict the flow of your entire race?
Yeah, yeah.
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 So some are able to read the future of battles, and then they can direct deployments and troop movements, with others manipulating single engagements, just no, like step back here because an explosion is going to come or something like that. And then others literally use it to save themselves and avoid bullets, Matrix style.
Sure.
And just so there's very different uses. A lot of
Yeah.
this is just battle talk, but divination is also the realm of the Emperor's Tarot,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good example.
which is like a really important thing. And that's, I think a lot of psychers would be drawn to this. The Emperor's
seeing
Tarot.
the future for sure. Yeah.
Especially like the Emperor's Tarot doesn't particularly require a large amount of power because you're just manipulating chance, and chance is already seen as a form of divination. So I really like the tarot and how it actually interacts with humanity as a psychic thing. So.
Yeah. If anyone has an Emperor's Tarot deck,
I would
or
I
have
want it.
made
I will
one,
buy it.
like
from
I don't
you.
think GW has ever made one.
No, they
but
never
if
did.
you've
It's
made
kinda
your own or are interested in making it, yeah, let us know.
I'm
We're-
super interested in owning an actual tarot deck designed around the Emperor's
The
Tarot.
40K, yeah.
Yeah.
it'd be cool. I mean, is it the same like of the tarot decks that exist today, or is it very unique to
Some
40K
of the
in
cards
story?
they've listed, but it seems very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd
and you
just be
could
40K themed.
you could
essentially.
more than
Essentially, yeah.
definitely like put it into your like real life tarot.
I mean, it'd be cool to have like new cards invented that are like from now till 40K.
Yeah.
New fates have come up and new scenarios.
Oh,
and
sure.
different types of
Yeah,
cards
yeah.
and things like that.
Oh, you've drawn horse. Your son's gonna betray you.
Shit like that. Yeah.
yeah.
That one's quite literal for tarot.
But yeah, anyways, any of those things where you're trying to see the future falls under divination.
Yeah.
So I like this power really,
For sure.
personally.
Pyromancy, the power of fire. These psychers are able to create and manipulate fire, from offensive abilities to shields and walls of flame. And like they manifest the fire, right? They're
Yes,
not,
they can create
Yeah.
and then manipulate it.
Yeah.
So they can just cause massive
yeah.
fires and
Yeah, they're
everything,
not.
so-
They don't need a candle beside them to
No.
to make this work. Up next,
It's funny that is
a school.
so specifically fire. Like they wouldn't label it evocation or something to be, just elemental things, right?
Yeah,
So-
that's why some of these things like pyromancy, the power of fire, like you can obviously still create like a big difference, like whether you're doing a single tiny flame
Yeah,
or
of
whether you're
course.
creating an inferno that burns down a
Yeah.
city block.
yeah,
But in the end, all of that is still just fire. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
in divination, I always feel like the things required for all the different things in divination are very different.
Yeah.
And so pyromancy does seem very like
It's
one.
interestingly pigeonholed.
Yes.
I've been watching Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Good
and
man.
it's cool how they describe firebenders, because all the other elements, like once you stop bending it, that's that. But
Yeah.
fire, if you let go, if you create it and you're not harnessing it,
Yeah.
it goes out of control.
Yeah.
So same thing. Like
Sure.
you want it to be very precise, this category,
So
because
maybe that's why they focus so closely on
exactly, because you know, if you're not looking at the future, it doesn't go out of control. But if you let fire, well, you know, it goes up. The future's crazy. But
You just
know what I
don't
mean?
know
Yeah,
that it'll
You-
be doing
exactly, exactly. Where fire, if you're not
it.
actively
Immediate consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Requires that efficiency. It's cool because we're reading through this list and it feels like we're building a character in D&D for a wizard. Like all these, I forget that these abilities like exist also in a 40k setting and a science fiction setting. It's cool. Like the harmony between both is just sweet because it feels like we should be wearing robes, you know. But then you realize that no, we're in
With our
spaceships.
candles.
Yeah.
and-
It's cool because like the thematically it's so similar and it's just
Absolutely.
it's cool.
Absolutely.
It carries across so much and it's sweet to have it in a science fiction setting, you know.
Yeah, I was at a game store earlier and I saw they had a whole bunch of copies of the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game.
Oh, nice.
Man, I flipped through it a little bit.
We
Like,
got a couple books here too, if
holy,
you're interested.
I want to play it. It looks
pretty neat.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks so cool.
Yeah.
All right, telekinesis. This power affects materials in the real world. This power seems to manifest warp energies into a solid form that can create barriers or objects. It is the realm of warp travel, such as Grey Knight ability, the Gate of Infinity.
Eric's favorite way to ruin every game of 40k you ever play with him.
Yes, sir. My God.
I'm not proud of that. I do like telekinesis. It almost, when I read it, they talk a lot about like lashes and whips and then barriers. I like to think of it as much more physical, like energy made solid.
Okay, sure.
That's not only what it is, but I like to imagine that
Yep.
this is the shaping of energy into just shapes.
Sure.
And like
That's cool.
like yeah, you have to create a whip so it's like a long shape, but it has to
Sure.
be smooth at like enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It can't be rigid, right? It has
Yep.
to have like fluidity and motion. Or you want a barrier, and that has to be solid.
okay.
And you're constantly trying to manipulate the same energy into all these different
okay.
That's cool.
avenues. And I like that
I like it.
aspect a lot.
You're creating objects. You're not manipulating objects necessarily.
Exactly.
So you
yeah.
made like a knife that's made out of warp energy, and then you
yeah,
can manipulate.
you can't
that to throw
you
at
can't even see it, but it's like a solid piece, and you've like created what it is, and you can now interact with it. And
You
stuff.
can use that to then manipulate objects in the room.
Exactly.
Which is almost the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Telepathy. This practice has to do with the mind. This power can strip away the sanity of their enemies, or fortify the resolve of your comrades. Through telepathy, Psykers can even possess their victims' bodies.
Whew. That's
So
fun.
It's mind control.
Mind control. Yeah.
I also like to see this very much along the same lines of reading people's thoughts.
Sure.
Seeing if they're lying, reading the energies in the room,
Yep.
or even manipulating entire energies. You know, you want to stir up a crowd.
Yep.
You need to massage the anger
Yeah.
in like the mob around you or
Right.
whatever. So it can have a lot of purposes just beyond like a mind battle with
See,
someone. You know,
It's not just mental communication. It's like emotional manipulation. Like you can.
that's how I see it a lot.
You can trigger
yeah.
emotions, not necessarily just like actual words and thoughts.
Yeah.
That's kind of a different take. I kind of like that. You know, it
You'll
doesn't-
see a lot of that later too when we talk about some other non-categorized psychers
Sure.
at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. The ability to affect a mood in a room is kind of.
I love that thought.
It's
yeah.
less direct and it's actually kind of almost more impactful in some ways.
There's a series by Brandon Sanderson that they really dive into power like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool.
I'll talk about it after.
Okay.
Anyways, so those are actually like the 5 majorly accepted psychic disciplines
Sure.
that, you know, the Astra Telepathica is going to either allow you to walk down or kill you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they have 2 other ones, and these are they're related and they're also like anti each other.
Okay.
So the first one we have is demonology, and this focuses on the interactions of real space and the warp, and it also says chaos. It is regarded as the most difficult of the disciplines to master, as many of the practitioners will inevitably fall insane from such intense study of the warp and chaos.
That's nice.
That's very interesting.
It involves some forms of teleportation and warp travel, as well as exerting control over the realities that you are in. So if you are creating warp portals for other entities, this is demonology.
Interesting.
This is creating mastery over the space you're around and bringing other realities into it. So if you're in the warp and you want to create like a bubble of real space around you, this is
A demonologist.
this might be more theosophy. But let's say, okay, instead
Yeah.
you're in reality, but you want to create a bubble of chaos and warp around you.
Sure.
That's demonology.
Okay.
You're mastering what's around you to bring warp and chaos to you, and that's like, it's so difficult because I think you just bathe yourself in these powers,
In
right?
these
Right.
energies.
And
Yeah,
is it always
absolutely.
for the like the study of those things, or is that also what they would just use as like an imperial quantification of somebody who's like fallen to chaos? He's using demonology, or
I think even non-chaos things, like even imperial sanctioned psychers will study demonology. Many
like Grey Knights.
inquisitors, Grey Knights definitely,
Yeah.
but many inquisitors employ demon hosts and talking with demons and manipulating their own energies and artifacts against them, and a lot of that I think falls under demonology. It's just demonology is so much easier to fall prey to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I think you're directly interacting with more denizens and entities of
Yeah.
the warp in this practice.
You're playing with their space, and that's where the demons live, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is that you're manipulating.
It's very different from just manifesting fire, I
Sure.
think, from energy,
yeah, of
or
course.
just affecting chance. You're actually trying to be involved in both realities at the same time.
Interesting.
So.
Cool.
And then you have theosophy, which it's very similar to demonology, but instead of allowing the raw energies of the warp to flow through the practitioner, they use ritual and control to attempt to alter realities. So this is probably more with the Grey Knights. Instead of just allowing themselves to be a conduit for energy, they prepare sigils, they pray, they burn
Right.
incense.
One's like reckless abandon.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
is like
It's the safe
But
way to do it.
It also seems like they're counters to each other, where demonology rips holes in reality. Theosophy is used to shut those holes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're wearing a condom at that point. Like they're being safe.
Yeah.
It's not letting the demons flow through.
So
right?
they're very similar in the I think they're very similar in like what powers they can manifest, but you go about them through two very different ways. One of them would take preparation and study and knowledge and willpower, and the other is just
fuck it, boys, we're doing it
balls.
live.
We're gonna
It's-
raw dog this shit. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like, really. And that, one would be used most effectively against the other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it seems that way.
Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
Well, there's a right way to do it, guys. Go for theosophy rather than demonology.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So there's also all types of psychic phenomenon that can happen. Like the categories we covered, those are just like the main categories. There's probably an infinite amount of different things you can do with the warp. But here are some other examples. So empaths.
Empaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These psychers are weak in manifesting powers, but are able to read the emotions of other beings, catching onto lies very easily. They are seen as extremely useful in interrogation of prisoners.
Yeah. So the odd thing is that this literally sounds like telepathy to me.
Sure.
But for some reason, there's another designation given to them.
No,
Yeah.
And who
Because
knows
of,
if that's
like,
just...
well, it's like the emotional distinction
Correct.
between like I'm affecting your mind
Yeah.
versus like I know where you're coming from though, because
Yeah.
like that you even spoke about. Like,
It just seems like it's a very
Yeah.
weak telepathic
Right.
Yeah,
person.
I think the distinction's been made that we talked about before. I think telepaths don't necessarily use emotional manipulation, and that's in fact where the empaths come into place. It is not that whisper in your ear. It's the feel of the room. It's an emotional state, and you're just super sensitive to other people's emotions. Potentially, you can manipulate it.
Yeah.
Whereas a telepathy, maybe that is that direct language. We are talking to each other from long distances.
I definitely see it just as a difference of power levels, really.
be.
Like, to
I
me,
mean,
it
yeah.
seems to me to be in the same school.
Sure,
Because
yeah,
it doesn't,
but they are-
like,
they are
this
distinguished,
empath,
yeah.
like, it doesn't fit pyromancy. It doesn't fit
No.
divination,
But this
right?
empath to me reads like what like a water cast thing would say. That sounds like a water cast member.
God damn. All Taos are psychers. We've
Yeah,
been
but-
lied to.
No, they seem like two distinct things. Like one has an emotional impact, and one's more like direct communication. Like if I'm a telepath, then I'm talking to you in your head, and I'm telling you things, and I'm giving you information. Whereas an empath, I'm not. I'm making you feel something, and that could sometimes be more powerful. That's why they use it to
So,
interrogate prisoners.
In
right?
telepathy,
Yeah.
you can fortify the resolve of your comrades. If it's as simple as being in your comrade's head and saying, "Don't worry, I got this," they wouldn't need to psychically do that. But I think there's actual manipulation of that person's resolve that they're strengthening. And the empath is just reading what's happening, but they're not strong enough to manipulate anything. There's a difference between seeing something through a foggy window and being like, I think that's what this is, and then versus being there right there and be like, now I can manipulate.
But if
this
you're like
power.
so in tune with the emotions of yourself and people around you that, and you can like respond so directly to somebody's emotional state, so that you could then guide the conversation or guide kind of their response.
Yep.
So do you think a telepath can't do that?
I think they would do it
in a non-emotional
differently.
way.
Well, in a more powerful way.
So like no, not necessarily. 'Cause
Yeah,
Anything
like
that an
you're
empath
doing this because
do-
I just made all your muscles do it.
Everything that an empath can do, I think a telepath can do.
I don't think.
But I don't think an
Yeah, I
empath
agree,
can
actually.
manipulate anything on the
Sure.
same level that a telepath could be able
I think
to.
a telepath needs to use words. I think a telepath can do a war cry in the mind of a million Marines before they go into battle. And, that's
Maybe.
what kind of gives them that motivation. Whereas an empath can, that's why they're, extremely useful in interrogation of prisoners, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to emotionally manipulate in a state where you give off information.
Maybe the telepath is capable of doing it, but
yeah.
just sucks at reading emotions.
Through
Like
words,
like
specifically, yeah.
I
Whereas
could be
this is-
telepathic and still bad with people.
Yeah. I think empath is non-language, and I think telepath is more language heavy. That's my take on it anyway. That's the way I read that.
But I agree kind of on like the power scale.
Yeah.
So where do
a
you
telepath
think-
would be more powerful?
Where
though,
do you
absolutely.
think an empath, what school, what discipline of this magic would an empath fall into? What do they practice?
Well, it would be a telepath at the end of the day.
Well, I
Because
don't-
you're still getting people's
Because that's
heads,
all
and
I'm
you're
trying to
still-
say
yeah,
is
fair
that
enough, yeah.
even though they haven't their own designation as
Yeah.
an empath,
Yeah.
they still just practice, in my mind, telepathy.
Just to a lesser degree.
Yes,
But it's
yeah.
just that
Yeah,
Or a
they're
different.
They're
It's
not
kind of a different degree, I
categorized as
think.
that.
I like that there's his own name. It just makes me think that there's so many of these out there
Yeah.
that they actually have their own name for what they do. It's easier to be
cool.
like when you have two inquisitors talking, be like, I need to borrow your telepath. What can he do? But instead you just be like, oh, he's an empath.
Yeah.
You instantly know what that person is capable of,
Yeah.
Sure.
and
Yeah.
how they can help your team.
Sure.
Yeah, fair.
And that's the only reason why I think of them having this name. But I also think that many other things can exist on many other planets.
Absolutely.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, empaths are cool. Like
It is really cool.
You can make a whole room depressed. Or you
I-
can make a whole room highly motivated.
I
you know,
see it
like-
as being one of the most common
Yeah.
uses of actual psychic power. It seems very minimal to
Well,
me, but it
people-
is still very powerful.
People identify like as being an
Empathetic.
empath.
Yeah, exactly,
In
yeah.
this current world.
We
you know?
know people that are
People
hypersensitive to emotions that
Yeah.
you can consider an empath. People that are extremely empathetic.
Absolutely. It's just
Absolutely,
in
yeah,
this
yeah.
one we know that it's a warp.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
we
it
know
is-
that they're
Warp
actually
emotions.
there's some behind that.
yeah, for sure.
I see your warp emotions.
Another kind of group of psychics that came up in humanity were something called cognosynths. It's actually very, very old, and they had attempted to control the human race through dream walking, actually. And they were very close to it, too. They don't even date this legend that I was reading through, but it does say they had captured entire nations and armies, and they had everyone under control through their dream walking, and they had almost captured all of humanity until a golden-eyed warrior rallied the rest of humanity and rose up against them, and for some reason their powers had no effect on him, and he led this humanity through a great flying fortress, and they rose up and they killed all the cognosynths, and there was
Very interesting.
this cognosynth power too. Apparently these guys created a city, and in this city it was like a focal point for all their powers.
Okay.
And so then the next time anyone tried to use this power, the city knows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's and I don't know if it's like a real city or if it's a mental city that they
Sure.
created.
Very cool.
But apparently, even in current like 40K, if anyone tries to practice cognosynth, this like city resonates because it was outlawed after this.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
now that's become like an alarm.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And I view it as
cool.
very much like what's that movie with Tom Cruise and
Oblivion.
Minority Report.
Okay.
Minority Report. Very much how
Top
when
Gun.
something is going to happen,
Gun.
they get a warning and then they go hunt for that person. I very much
Right.
view this city as
Sure.
as that, where someone tries to use that psychic power, the city resonates, and then someone tries to hunt that person down.
And then
kill
Tom
them,
Hanks,
and
sorry, Tom
Cruise.
Tom Cruise will personally
on
find
his
them.
motorcycle. Yeah.
I can see why something like that would be outlawed, because it's like it's almost taking like a combination of telepathy and empathy, like to a subconscious level to control the masses, which is like an even more like kind of scary thing.
Yeah, because now you think that everything is coming from yourself, whereas with
Right.
other things you can still argue with your brain.
Yes,
and
but this
fight
is like
against it.
these are my ideas.
Yeah, it's very
That's
cool.
the
I
scary
like that
part.
it's
I
more
agree.
of a legend.
Yeah.
And it's very much obviously the emperor
Yes,
who's
yeah.
doing it. But
Stay golden, pony boy.
yeah, yeah. It's especially nice when the legend says, he rode in on a giant flying fortress, and apparently that was just didn't exist back then.
You're just,
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oof.
The Unsane. These mortals have a strong psychic ability that keeps them alive long beyond their bodies. Unfortunately for them, in their minds exist only terrible creatures that feed on their powerful warp presence, haunting and terrorizing them for as long as they can. Staring into the eyes of one of the Unsane seems to attract the attention of these unwanted beings, also causing you to be consumed.
well, that sucks.
So they're just in a perpetual state of existence. So they're constantly alive, but they're
Yeah,
in
until
this-
they're consumed.
and they're in this state where they're just like mentally collapsing under.
So this is
they're
like
being,
psychic vegetable.
yeah,
That's kind of how
totally
I saw it.
consumed.
Yeah.
And then if you address one of these people that's in this state and you look in their eyes, it's contagious. You can
Yeah,
get
like
infected
you'll
as well.
also except those beings, what it sounds is like they're feeding on them, but
Yeah, sure.
since you're so weak, most likely they'll just consume you in an instant.
Right.
But yeah, this is kind of how I view like
Fucking
the
terrifying. Jesus, like what is this shit? That's kind of insane.
when they talked a lot about in the beta and alpha the assignment, they lack the mental instability. This Unsane is kind of what I got out of that. Like you're insane and you can't interact with anything anymore. You've given up. Your mind is broken.
Yeah.
You're so psychically powerful that you're still alive. You've been
Right.
we know Malkador, his entire body was broken, but he still managed, like he stood up because psychic powers were still flowing through him, and we know they can fortify your body and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So
You've
It's-
been a psyker too long, mate. You've had one too many.
Yeah.
So just kind of lay down and calm down a little bit, eh? You just need to.
It's just
I
fully
just imagine this
brain
like
crack.
person's
Yes.
like sitting on like a sidewalk or whatever, covered in a ragged cloak, and their eyes are just burning
Yeah.
with like this power that they can't control.
Pretty
and
bad come down.
Only
It's like-
haunting. And,
Just a homeless guy. Yeah, look at him the wrong way, and
yeah,
your soul is consumed.
yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't have given him change.
Yeah, that's so crazy to
Oh my
me though.
goodness.
I like that they put that in.
Yeah, it's cool
there.
that it's written in, right? This is
Yeah.
how bad it can get.
So this is not perpetuals. Like perpetuals have the ability to like reincarnate themselves. Well, to come back from death. Like these guys aren't that.
No.
They're-
Their lives are just being extended.
Exactly. Like if you
Yeah.
go up, you take a bolt gun, you shoot them in the face.
They'll
These guys
die.
are dead.
Yeah.
They're not coming back.
They're just like psychically forced into extended suffering because
Y-
their
yeah.
their
Yeah.
like
It's more
body
common.
is
It's-
being kept alive from all the
And-
shit surging
Exactly.
through them.
You
Yeah.
know what? It's even possible that they do survive this bolt gun to the head, but it's not them.
Sure.
Sure,
sure,
it's
sure.
the beings that are consuming them that are
Yeah.
making sure this energy stays together so they can continue to
Yeah.
feed. You know?
Yeah, and like they get shot with the bolt gun. Yeah, they might be alive, but they're not going to recover. Where
No.
perpetual
like
will recover.
Right.
Yeah.
Chicken with its
Absolutely.
head cut off. It's
Yeah.
just like the psychic energy is firing all the electrons in his body still.
Yeah. No, these are not immortal
Yeah.
by any.
Exactly.
As soon as their reservoir of psychic power runs out, they're gone.
Yeah. Exactly. Very cool.
Whew.
Perils of the
That-
Who?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's an infinite amount of fucking psychic powers. Like. when
Oh
you're-
yeah, or ways to interact with them,
Yeah.
or categories for you to be, put in. And,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
each world is probably going to call different things different names, and they might
Exactly.
have different categories, and there might be overlaps. So
Yeah, there's
truthfully,
no point to try and name everything.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
probably come up with all of them on your own and say, it's how I do it, it's how my planet or how my force does it. So I think that you don't have to feel like you have to follow this stuff. It's just should give you some ideas.
Well, it's
some frameworks.
It's a fundamental component of the universe, Like the warp is just this giant magical thing, and obviously there's people that are conduits for it, and just you can think of the plethora of ways that you can manipulate it and interact with it, and it manifests itself in all these super interesting ways. It's cool. It gives it so much flavor,
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a limit to it? Like, can you theoretically, if you're like, if you're the emperor, like what? Like,
I would say the only limit is like creativity.
But
right.
Like,
also, people have just limits.
Well, sure.
Like,
But like
we
if we're
have-
talking about like
if you have
overall, is there a
unlimited
limit?
power.
Like, if somebody can think of something and their psyker, another psyker has probably done it. If somebody's thought of something that a psyker could potentially done, a psyker has done it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Maybe.
I
don't know. There's some things that I think might be impossible.
I would love to hear it.
So communing with the Tyranid Hive Fleet. So I know
Tigurius
Tigurius survived an interaction with the Hive Fleet, but I don't think he gained any kind of knowledge.
Understanding.
I don't see why you couldn't do
Yeah.
it, but I don't think you would know what they said.
Yeah,
Well,
I just
Tigurius-
think
isn't he supposed
I
to
think
be one
it's
of the
not-
most powerful psychers?
Like,
you just
and
get,
even
like-
he couldn't do it.
Yeah, I see it more as
I don't know what they're saying. What is this?
Yeah.
I don't see it as an impossibility. I see it more as it just has not happened yet. I think with anything can happen. If you don't have an example, it just hasn't happened yet. I think anything is possible through psychic powers and having the right person. That doesn't mean that every psyker is capable of everything, but somewhere out there or in eventually times, everything is possible through psychic powers. That's how I see it anyways.
Yeah,
Not without consequence. I'm just saying,
Sure.
yeah, like what? Yeah.
I hope
probably
that
possible.
they never really bring a character that doesn't have a limit
Sure.
into the
Sure,
story.
sure.
I don't like the idea of that.
So it's not that I'm saying like that there's like this all-powerful person that can do literally everything. I'm saying there could be one person out there that can do this very specific thing.
What if
that
this very
somebody has-
specific thing is cutting off the warp from reality?
Sure. As all things, there's always going to be exceptions.
Yeah, I hope, but stuff like that, I think you
Sure.
could even come up with other examples where like you really don't want to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hope that if this powerful being comes out, like I don't want a human who's ever classified as more powerful a psyker than the Emperor.
I'm not even saying that. Like, he literally might only be able to do this one specific thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's this all-powerful psyker that can do everything. I'm just saying that through psychic powers, I think almost anything is possible. That's all I'm trying to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. There's just some things I don't want to see.
Yeah.
Even though everything could be possible,
Yeah.
there are some things I don't want to be possible.
Yeah.
Purely for the story.
Sure.
Not because I have any.
Yeah.
You want omnipotent godlike beings just kind of ruin
I don't
everything
even
with,
want a
like,
guy who can snap his fingers and like put out a star.
You want
that
flaws.
seems like
That's
crazy.
Necron tech.
It is. Yeah, it's the Necron. That's not the realm of human.
Human.
The realm
Human.
of Necron.
Human tier.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
like there are some things I just don't.
No, yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not saying they couldn't exist. I just don't want them.
Yeah,
personally.
sure.
But let's talk about one of the last things before we actually end the episode.
So we've talked about all the fun of being a psyker. You know, it's a great time. You're reading your friends' emotions. Everyone's having a good time.
You're
doing
manipulating
yeah.
some fire.
Yeah, you're doing some party tricks with fire. It's fun, you know.
And then bam!
Ow! Then bam!
Oh, and then bam. Okay, there we go. We missed a couple slides, and then bam.
So the last thing we're going to talk about are called the perils of the warp. And if you play tabletop, you'll know this as just, there's a chance anytime you do something that your guy is going to kill himself. But in the universe, a peril of the warp is commonly seen as an attack from the warp. And there are many instances of psychers losing control over the energy that they're attempting to manipulate.
Slap on the wrists.
Is it?
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
So the risk of these perils is always present, and psychers are in a constant struggle and battle for control over these raging energies that they're, plunging their hands into.
Yeah. Even the most powerful psychers are
Absolutely.
still threatened by
It's
this.
still a risk, yeah.
Yeah.
Some races, such as the Eldar, have created technologies like the Ghost Helm to protect them from these relapses. But most races do not have the understanding or the technology to protect themselves in this way. And even Eldar can still suffer an attack from the warp. Like, they're protected to a much higher degree than anyone else out there, just because of their knowledge. But they still are at risk. It's still a risk.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah, high risk, high reward.
Absolutely. So humanity doesn't have this ghost helm. They can't just slap this rune on every person to protect them from perils of the warp.
Doesn't work like that.
So instead, they're going to put a blank.
No.
Every
They come up with a way better solution.
impossible, but
I'll
on.
let you know. So the solution is called the Ultimate Sanction.
Okay.
And it grants the Emperor's mercy
Oh, that's
to any
nice.
psyker that has lost control. Absolutely. Who wouldn't love
I love
to
a
feel
little
the
mercy.
of
Yeah.
the Emperor?
No, I love a
in
little
your
mercy.
life?
Pretty graceful.
Yeah. So execution
Oh!
is the safest and quickest way
Oh.
to mitigate the loss of warp energies, and many times this ends the threat as soon as the body dies.
Wait, what? I thought I was forgiven by the Emperor. I
Absolutely.
thought I'd gotten mercy.
Your soul will be saved.
Yeah, but I wanna
because we're
continue
not allowing the warp energies to consume your soul. But the
Don't worry,
body-
Dylan. You're just a lowly
Row.
Tau.
He's a
a
row.
lowly row. Row pie.
It wasn't my fault the perils happened, okay? I'm just trying to be in service to the Emperor, and now you're gonna kill me?
But yeah, they honestly see like the quickest and best way of protecting themselves is just the immediate death of anything that poses a threat,
Seems to be a
which is
problem.
very imperial.
Unless it's an alpha prime or whatever.
unless
then,
we're nearly
and then you can
positive
maybe-
that we're
Right.
gonna-
Only nearly.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe you're worth something.
Alpha.
But yeah, that's a very common
Seems to
way.
be the number one problem-solving tool. It's just
For the Imperium?
immediate
Yeah.
execution for most things.
Yeah.
Don't you turn around. Don't you untie your shoe. Don't you spit up that corpse starch.
Don't you exist?
Don't you exist.
I feel sad. Are you a telepath?
Oh. So the manifestations of these perils, these attacks from the warp, are impossible to predict. They can be absolutely anything, but most often dangerous and deadly. These uncontrollable manifestations are the reason that Psykers are viewed as one of the greater threats to the Imperium itself. And with the advent of the Cicatrix Maledictum and Magnus's Ritual of the Damned, the ratio of Psykers to non-Psykers is exponentially increasing. There are more Psykers now per capita than there have ever been
That's actually
in
awesome.
humanity's history. And that number is only increasing too. So
Right.
it's a crazy...
Risk.
Yeah, there is, like, the Psychic Awakening is, like, that happened for our rule set for the past, 10 months they did it
Yep.
or something? That was very aptly named for humanity. Humanity was undergoing a Psychic Awakening.
Yeah.
And we're kind of just at the culmination of it right now. That's, like, where we're currently at in the story, is that humanity is...
On our way to being Eldari.
Yeah,
You know,
honestly, like that's considered by a lot to be the next step in evolution.
Yeah.
Is just to have every single human psychically attuned.
And then what to become then. That's a completely different picture, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's...
I got a list from Fantasy Flight Games. It's an RPG of just like when you perils of the warp. You roll
just
on
some of
this.
the cool
Yeah.
effects.
So I'll read some of these because they're quite cool. So on a 1, nothing happens. Seizures, blackout, serious wounds, blood boil. So your blood will start to boil. Warp tear. So a bunch of demons will appear through the warp. Life tap. The psycho get wounded if all. Wow, that's not even sentences. He is out of the mission.
What are you at? Are you
He
on
gets
Death
out of
Watch?
the mission? That's
If
crazy.
all lost in the warp, so that the psycho will literally just get sucked into the warp.
Yep.
Or warp portal, a major demon will appear.
Crocodiles.
Yeah.
So funnily enough,
fuck yes.
Oh, cool.
That one's even better. I remember some of those.
We played Death Watch a long time ago.
Yeah, nice.
Ooh.
And Mark actually was a psyker
Which was cool because everyone rolled at the beginning of the game, and I got lucky.
Yes,
so I actually,
we kind of gave it a
yeah,
random chance
sweet.
of whether or not you actually were psychic.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it was nice.
That's sick.
And Mark and I actually had a duel at one point in that game.
Eric was a Black Templar, so naturally, me being a Psyker and him being a Black Templar,
Yeah.
our heads are gonna butt. And then
clashing.
I'm Mark, Eric's Eric, so now our
Yeah,
heads
yeah.
are really
It's
fucking
only-
butting.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It wasn't conducive to a good friendship. So at some point in the campaign, we have a duel in
Yeah.
the training cages on our battle cruiser or whatever. Of
course.
And Mark at some point got so fed up with probably my
Friendship.
my
Yeah,
friendship
yeah.
that he decided he was going to manifest some psychic powers in this duel.
Yeah, in this game, you can like choose to do 3 different levels where like it's different power levels. So I pushed
Yeah.
myself and I did the highest power level.
But which has the highest risk of an attack back to you, right? Because
Yeah.
you want to manifest,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want
Of
to
course.
manipulate more powers. There's a greater, it's a two-way street.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he rolls, and he rolls a 75 on a D100, which means perils of the warp. The warp opens in a maelstrom of energy. Immediately make a roll on the next table. So then you go to the next table, and you're like, uh-oh.
No. Yeah.
we
And
go.
there's an entire another D100 effect system
Oh,
that
God.
you can get for this, because this is now like the true
Yes.
peril.
Bad stuff.
And
So
he
cool.
literally rolled a 91 to 99, which is with a blood curdle. The peril is called "Something is Coming," and the description is
Wait. So keep in mind, we're just having a friendly
Duel.
honor duel between
Yeah.
two space
on our
ship.
Oh my.
That is not our ship.
Right.
It's just the one we're currently on.
You just get fed up and you're like, yeah,
So-
we're going psychic.
With a blood-curdling howl, a demon prince
Oh.
rips into existence. It detects the Psyker and trains its attacks on the fool that unwittingly summoned it. Only its destruction or the death of the Psyker will send it back to the warp.
Holy fuck.
So at this point in the game, we're all like, "Oh my god!"
We're like throwing our papers like, well, we're screwed.
Yeah.
Wait, so
we're
like
all like level 1. like-
naturally Mark lost the duel.
yeah. Well, so
demon
what ended up happening? The only way I could see to not
Wipe
let
the
everyone
party.
die.
Yeah.
I took out my Bolt's pistol. I shot myself in the head, and I killed my character.
Holy
Killed yourself
shit.
so
Killed
that
myself.
the demon prince would leave.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I got banished.
You didn't try to shoot Eric first?
Bam, bam.
Just out of principle, go fuck yourself.
This is your fault.
Yeah.
I thought we were friends.
Take you both
But
out.
if you have any of the Death Watch or if any of the Fantasy Flight games, go look at the Perils of the Warp. Some of them are so fucking cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
some of them are
that's
just like
really
darkness. The whole room just all light gets taken away from it.
Oh yeah,
it's
or
just,
you're just everyone gets frozen. Hoarfrost covers everything.
Yeah,
or, like,
oh,
you
they're
burn
so
within
good.
like miles around you.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Or reverse gravity or like whatever.
absolutely
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like
cool.
screams fill the hearing of anyone like
Yeah.
within this vicinity, and
Oh.
it's the
10
Fantasy
out of 10.
Flight did very good on the Death Watch. So.
on,
Yeah, I
on
mean,
all of their
in,
books.
in regular
they did good,
40k, it's
but-
pretty tasteless with what happens, right?
Absolutely,
you
in the
just-
gaming
Yeah, yeah,
system
yeah.
for sure, it's boring.
You just like
You should,
take wounds, and then if you die while taking wounds,
You
you
can-
blow up and affect units
you should
around
use
you.
that chart next time you play 40k.
Crusade.
D100
Demon
instead.
Crusade,
Yeah,
a demon
yeah.
prince just randomly shows up.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, I
That
love
Absolutely.
sounds awesome,
That'd be
actually.
sick.
So good.
But yeah, those are like the perils is just it's warp energy.
Mm.
It's unpredictable. It wants to come out. It wants to manipulate you and feed on your soul, and it's gonna happen if you're not careful. So
And ruin best friendships.
yeah,
Demon
it was a
princes.
good moment.
It's actually kind of
It
pretty
was
awesome.
classic.
It just what.
So did you have to like sit down and make a whole new character for the next hour?
I don't
or,
think
like,
we lasted very long on
Okay.
that campaign. After that.
Yeah.
You just hung out.
Yeah.
Like,
It was
"Alright."
one of our first like kind of true D&D pen and paper type games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's a clunky system, so
Sure.
I think we kind of just
It's not the
Failed-
best.
Failed
one.
on it.
yeah, the lore, everything like that, the books, the way they're laid out, it's all awesome, but just kind of the rule set, it gets a little crazy. So
Yeah,
especially if you've never done stuff like that before. but
impressive.
sure.
Good times.
Well, that is the end of episode 77.
Fuck.
Psykers.
10 out of 10 that episode. Whoever sent me that email, I hope now you know what Psykers are.
Yeah, Psykers are very cool. I hope that it kind of just opens the door on your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, you don't feel like, oh, smite is the only power my
Yeah.
power know.
Yeah,
Like,
when
know,
I was doing artwork for this, pulling up slides and stuff, everyone's just shooting lightning bolts out of their fingertips. I'm
lightning
like,
is
it's
boring.
like, I get it. You got lightning
Yeah.
fingers, but there's so much you can do.
Yeah, anything that you can feel like is manipulated, you can do, because the whole purpose of the warp is to break reality down.
Yeah. It's
So
just
it's an
manifestation.
impossibility you can make real.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is people can really get into that more when they step away from what they think needs to be real.
Exactly.
It's how you break rules. You do it through being
Yeah.
a psyker.
Yeah.
You can break whatever rule you want because, hey, it's just space magic. So you
Absolutely.
just fucking, you can just
And there
do it.
doesn't even have to be like real consequences
Yeah, honestly.
or in the moment, you know? Like
Yeah.
so it's
I love it.
It's very cool.
It's
It's very
cool.
cool. But before we actually disappear,
I got one more thing before
Oh,
we do our
yeah.
Patreon
Yeah,
shoutouts. If anyone's noticed that like our release schedule has been weird recently, it is summertime. Me and Eric have been kind of taking it a little easy, but I think we're going back to doing bi-weekly actual full episodes. So look forward to that.
absolutely, yeah, we're
It-
gonna.
it was just
we're gonna
summertime,
push
you
a little
know.
harder for bonus episodes
Absolutely,
and other content
absolutely.
now. So
Cool.
We've been doing Lorehammer now for 3 years, and it was just kind of the right time to it was summertime. We just kind of took a little bit of a break, but yeah, we're back to it full time now. So
And that's just left just enough
Real
gap for
correct.
Let's Talk Warhammer to slip
Well-
on in there.
I don't think there is time for that.
Oh, I mean, like, look, after you finish this episode, feel free to download the other podcast.
Yeah,
which-
honestly, it's cool. Like it's very different than this.
Yeah.
It's talking to people and just sharing what other people want to say. I really enjoy it.
It's meant to supplement it, and I appreciate that, man. And it's cool. It's really fun doing it, and we're just still in our infancy, so obviously you're looking
Yeah.
for all the support we can get.
Yeah.
But
And obviously, you guys like Dylan and the other guy Matt from the UK. He's been on one episode.
Yeah, Matt's
Fucking
sick.
great guy.
Yeah.
Like
no, it's good chemistry. We just talk
Yeah.
shit for 2 hours basically, and make
Yeah.
fun of everyone in the community. So
Yeah.
get on the Discord, be a part of the community,
Absolutely.
and then we shout out way more people in the community than you guys do. So
yeah,
if you want-
that's yeah.
if you want your name in the
Wow.
Warhammer ethos,
Yeah.
then
you're throwing some shade.
you have a
on
higher
here.
chance of
Yeah.
messaging Matt, all right, to get your name out there. So
It is nice now. People message me. I'm like, oh yeah, I think Matt or Dylan can take care of that.
we started to take the load, but no, the Lawhammer brand is expanding, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
Yeah. So Patreon shoutouts. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, everyone, for joining our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us.
Absolutely.
I say it all the time. Fuck, it's awesome. Give me your money.
Yeah, but for this time, let's thank our newest contributors, which are Hoyer, Rice, Gansberg, Nope Guy, GG, Copy,
I got this one.
yeah, perfect,
Because there's a Q on the end.
and Angungwak, Angungwak,
Yeah, that's it.
Jaunty Goblin, Gage, Shannon, Kyle, Fraser, and Gavin.
Thank you so much, everyone, and all our existing Patreon
Yeah,
people.
thanks to everyone
It's
who's
amazing.
contributed. You
Yeah.
know, it's
It's awesome that you guys like 3 years. It's pretty considerable.
Yeah.
We did
Um,
the barbecue last week.
Yeah, we had a thank you barbecue for all our what do you guys call yourself?
Guests.
Guests.
Yes.
What do you call yourselves? Humans.
Hosts,
Lorehammer simps.
But yeah, it was nice to be able to get like a bunch of people together because I think we've had like close to 30 different people on this show, so it's pretty wild.
It's cool because it's still localized to one city, right? So to
Yeah.
have such a diversity is kind of sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been very nice, the people that have shown that they also want to contribute and just hang out and
Yeah.
be a part.
Yeah.
So,
So if you're
we'll-
in Calgary, shoot us a message. I'll run you through the rigorous.
even if you're just around here,
yeah.
Yeah, Mark
I'll-
will give you his address.
I will. So
along with a 2-page questionnaire,
Yep.
and the only questions on it are: do you love Warhammer?
how many cats you have? There's a
And
lot of cat
how many
questions.
cats do you have?
It's
How often do you feed your cats?
yeah. Color of
How
cats.
often do you play with your
It's a
cats?
pretty rigorous vetoing process.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad that
Absolutely.
you don't need
Yeah.
extra staff for this.
If you fail even
Right.
one of those
Oh.
questions, he'll
Yeah.
give you another chance.
Cool. Well, thanks. That was a great episode. Thanks, guys, for making the time.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Now
Thank
go
you.
listen to Let's Talk Warhammer. Yeah,
Yeah,
keep
boy.
the band
At
going.
what point do I just cut this off?
Right?
Never.
Now.
Let's.
Everything is either a potato or not a potato.
it's a pretty harsh line to draw.
What about
Prove me
potatoes?
wrong.
We all know which
What are
side.
tacos?
I guess they're not potatoes.
Well, there you By Jove, I think we've done it.